Good evening. Before I call the meeting to order, I want to announce that some commissioners, staff, and the public are attending remotely via Zoom, by phone, or on site. All participants joining by phone should mute their phones when not speaking to avoid background noise. During the meeting, please make sure that you announce yourself by name and title every time you speak so the public that is observing knows who is speaking. Please be sure you speak directly into a microphone so that the public can hear your comments and an accurate record of the meeting is made. This is critical given the number of remote participants and its current guidance from the Kansas Attorney General. If public comments are allowed on an agenda item, comments should be limited to the topic of that item. Per the Commission Rules of Procedure, comments should not include any rude or derogatory remarks, reflections as to integrity, abusive comments, and statements as to motives and personalities. I will now call this meeting of the Board of Commissioners for Thursday, March 7, 2026 to order. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Bynum?
Here.
Kump?
Here.
Howard, we have an absence memo. Burns?
Here.
Ramirez?
Here.
Hill?
Here.
Pacheco?
Here.
Lopez?
Here.
Stites, we have an absence memo. Davis?
Here.
Watson?
Here. The invocation tonight will be given by Chaplain Daniel Freeman, New Beginnings Missionary Baptist Church. Is he here?
I do not see him.
We do not see him. So Commissioner Hill will give the invocation, and then I'll ask everyone to stand and remain standing after the invocation for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us bow our heads. Father, we thank you for this another evening. Thank you for your love and your mercy that endures forever. We turn this meeting over to you. Have your way is our desire. We pray, oh Lord, that our hearts would be created according to your will, that our intentions would be honorable, that our votes would be for the people, and that you, by your Holy Spirit, would lead us all the way. We thank you that all things are possible with you. We thank you for turnaround that's happening in Wyandotte County even now, and for the new things that's coming that will be beneficial to each and every resident in our area. Now we turn this all over to you in the precious name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Beautiful prayer, Commissioner Hill. Never disappoint with that prayer. And this time I want to read some announcements. Yesterday, May 6th, I was privileged to host the Honorable Alejandro Molinuevo, Mayor, Molezo, okay, I just slaughtered that, of the city of Concepcion, Tucumán, Argentina, for an event commemorating a sister city partnership between our two governments. We look forward to continue to explore this exciting partnership for the benefit of both governments. It was a beautiful event. It was even, we got a lot of news coverage on it, and it is part of our new One World Wyandotte Sister City program. Which brings me to our May 29th One World Wyandotte Annual Festival. It will be held here at City Hall from 3 to 3 o'clock. It starts at 3 o'clock. Celebrating the diversity of Wyandotte County. The streets will be blocked and there will be fun, entertainment, and food trucks for all ages to enjoy the many cultures represented here in Wyandotte County. On May 13th, from 4 to 6 p.m. at Memorial Hall, the Kansas Department of Transportation is hosting an open house regarding the Central Avenue Bridge. Yes, the open house will provide additional information and collect comments from the community about the environmental assessment that was conducted throughout the project area, as well as to discuss the proposed layout for the overall bridge replacement as the project heads into preliminary design this summer. Yes. All right, kick off summer with National Day of Outdoor Play. Please join us Saturday, May 16th at Welborn Park for National Day of Outdoor Play. A big partnership revealed with Sporting KC will be announced at this event. You will not want to miss it. The event celebrates the start of summer with World Cup, theme games, and a variety of outdoor activities for the community. This free, FREE, event is recommended for children ages 4 and up. Refreshments and swag will be available while supplies last. On Tuesday, May 19th, from 5 to 7 p.m. at the Vernon Multipurpose Center, 3426 North 27th Street. The Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas is developing a master plan for the Quindaro neighborhood, and they need your feedback. The master plan will serve as a blueprint for the future of the area. The Quindaro Neighborhood Master Plan seeks to identify meaningful ways to honor the site's role in important movements and preserve its legacy for future generations. And in an effort of working together to keep our community clean and safe, we thank everyone over the past few weeks for volunteering at various community cleanups and for the community's participation at the first Dumpster Day collection event last Friday and Saturday, per solid waste manager Diana Miles. Over 55.6 tons of trash was collected. Wow. And used 17 dumpsters. We had 466 visitors. The next dumpster days will occur this fall. Stay tuned for ways you can volunteer at more community cleanup events. I think that deserves a round of applause. Woo-woo! Dumpster day, dumpster day, dumpster day. All right. Now, on a serious note, we have 2 items scheduled under the mayor's agenda this evening. The first item, item 6.1, is a presentation from our election commissioner, Mr. Michael Abbott, showcasing the I Voted sticker designs and the artists who created each of them. I will ask Mr. Abbott to introduce the presentation.
This on? Good evening, Michael Abbott, Wyandotte County Election Commissioner. Students in Wyandotte County were invited to design a unique I Voted sticker for the 2026 elections. Contest was open for 3 months to allow students to design their entries. All submissions were to be original artwork that captured the spirit of voting in Wyandotte County. We believe this encourages younger generations to participate in the democratic process, plants a seed for future civic involvement, offers our voters an exciting and unique sticker special to Wyandotte County. This was the second year of the contest, and it was even more successful than the first year. The first year we had 14 contestants. This year we had 27. Yeah, and next contest will be announced early next year on the Wyandotte County Facebook page. And this is intended to be an annual contest for all Wyandotte County students. And before I announce the winners, I just wanted to say thank you to the schools for all their participation. The 27 students that had their designs, they are incredible designs. We had them hung up in the Wyandotte County Election Office front lobby. It's the first thing you see when you walk in, and they'll be there all year until the next contest. With that being said,
Great.
I just want to congratulate Riley Atkins, a senior from Piper High School, and Melanie Estrada Quintera, a senior from Turner High School. And these are their two designs here.
Woohoo! Yeah!
If I could get, we couldn't have Melanie come tonight. She couldn't come, but we do have Riley Atkins. So if I could have Riley come.
Come on up, Riley. Yeah. And here it is on a t-shirt. Other side. There we go. Here's Riley. So David has it on the front of his and I have it on the back. And then Melanie is on the front and she's on the back of that shirt. Isn't this great, you guys?
Wow. Thank you.
Fantastic. Woo woo. Does any member of the commission have any comments or questions? Commissioner Pacheco.
Thank you, Mayor. Pacheco, District 5. Riley, congratulations, well deserved. Great to see somebody from District 5 do a wonderful job. I think last year was also Piper High School, if I recall.
Oh,
So very good job, and we're all proud
I
of you.
didn't mean it like that. That's good.
Hey,
Sorry.
hey, man, I'm a Bishop Ward guy, but it's my district.
I'm a
man, so
kissy
I love it here,
KPS
so
girl.
I love it. So no, I'm very proud of you. We all are, and congratulations to you. I do think, to Mr. Abbott's point, I think this does involve our younger generation in the political process. It makes it
Yes.
important to them. It makes them want to be a part of it to cast their vote. And so seeing it increase basically by double the amount of contestants this year, I think
Yeah.
is good. And I'm glad others are up for display at the election office. And so very good job and congratulations to you.
Woo woo. All right. Thank you so much. And again, congratulations. The second item, item 6.2, is a presentation in celebration of Jewish Heritage Month. I will ask Demi Levitch. Okay, and you are?
Allison Berry.
Hi, Allison. So we're going to ask Allison Berry from the Jewish Community Relations Bureau to introduce the presentation.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Watson and Board of Commissioners, and thank you.
Can you pull the mic down just a little so we can hear you?
Happens
Thank you.
when you're my height. Is that better?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Thank you so much for giving me a few minutes to address you today. I'm a member of the Board of Directors of JCRB AJC, which is alphabet soup, stands for Jewish Community Relations Bureau, and American Jewish Committee. Those are two national organizations. Because Kansas City is a smaller region, we merged those two for our local team. The JCRB AJC has been representing and supporting the Jewish community here for 80 years, serving as a Jewish community's advocate in Kansas and Western Missouri. Our board and staff advocate for community security. They work to educate within counterpart organizations, and we connect to build relationships in interfaith and civic spaces. Each May, Jewish American Heritage Month offers an opportunity to recognize and celebrate the contributions of Jewish Americans to our nation's history, culture, and civic life. But this month is not only about celebrating history, it's also about deepening understanding. Jewish identity is somewhat unique in that we are both a religion and a peoplehood, much more like an ethnicity that's rooted in shared traditions and values. Core values of the Jewish people throughout our history continue to guide Jewish life today. Key values such as a focus on education, responsibility to the community, and working to improve the world, which in Hebrew is a term called tikkun olam. Surprisingly to many, we are a small people, only 15 million Jews in the world. So by comparison, there are over 2 billion Christians, 2 billion Muslims, about a billion Hindus. Globally, we represent only 0.2% of the world population. In the United States, it's 2%. And in the Kansas City area, I'm sure well under 1%. So this means that we not only live, of course, a very integrated life with all other faiths and backgrounds, but that we also need allies more than ever, both interfaith and civic. I would be remiss if I treated this opportunity to speak with you as if it were any other year, particularly any year before 2023. This is truly an unusual time, like nothing my generation or my parents' generation experienced. I grew up in the Kansas City area and did not experience anti-Semitism. My kids, unfortunately, did not have the same experience. The rise in anti-Semitic incidents began before October 7, 2023, but took a dramatic turn after that day. In the Jewish community, we are all feeling this. And we speak of October 7th as a turning point, like before October 7th, after October 7th. There's been an exponential rise in hate crimes over the past years, having gone up about 400%. The FBI states that crimes against Jews comprise 70% of all religion-based hate crimes. So at 2% of the population, you can see that's extremely disproportionate. If you'll bear with me, I'd like to share a few statistics with you from the most recent American Jewish Committee report on anti-Semitism. 91% of American Jews say they feel less safe as a Jewish person in the United States due to violent attacks in the past year, including the burning of a Jewish governor's home, the firebombing of Jews in Boulder, Colorado, and the murders outside the Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C., which included Sarah Milgram, a young woman who grew up in Kansas City and went to Shawnee Mission East. 86% of American Jews say anti-Semitism has increased in the U.S. since the Hamas terrorist attacks. Almost 1/3 of American Jews say they've been the personal target of anti-Semitism, either online or in person, in the past year. And among our youth, 42% of American Jewish college students report experiencing anti-Semitism during their time on campus. 1 in 4 American Jewish college students say they've felt or been excluded from a group on an event or an event on campus because they were Jewish. So I apologize for the weightiness of my comments, but I'm grateful to Mayor Watson and this Board of Commissioners, not only for your recognition today, but for your ongoing and very genuine support. I've left some resource cards over on that table has a QR code that you can scan for educational resources, briefings and presentations for local governments on combating anti-Semitism, and information about the Jewish people. There are also some blue buttons that represent the movement to stand up to Jewish hate if you'd like to take one. If I were to leave you with 2 takeaways, please reach out with questions even if something might feel sensitive. The JCRB AJC team is a resource. The team does excellent work in providing educational programming, helping to manage anti-Semitic incidents, and is there to support the Jewish community in working with you all. Second, please speak up when you hear what might be a problem for the Jewish community. Please talk to your kids. Please speak up with your friends and colleagues. The Jewish community continues to pursue social justice as part of our value of tikkun olam, repairing the world, for all minorities in the fight against income disparities and standing against all forms of hate. We are grateful that our community partners understand that mutual allyship is what strengthens Kansas City, Kansas, and enables everyone to be safe and to thrive. Thank you for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much for that presentation. Does any member of the commission have any comments or questions? Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for the presentation and your advocacy. It is hard during this time to be open and frank of when our federal government is going through this erasure of celebrating diversity and celebrating the differences we each have. So thank you for your continued advocacy and to coming to us. You know, from me, I will advocate for anybody and everybody. We're all human beings. We all bleed the same blood. And so, thank you.
Thank you.
Those were great words, Commissioner Ramirez, and I think that's all shared by our commission board. Thank you so much again for being here.
Appreciate you.
God bless you. This item was for information only. Now we're going to go right into our regular consent agenda. Does any member of the commission or county administrator wish to set aside any item on the regular consent agenda? If an item is not set aside, all items on the regular consent agenda will be voted on by one vote. Are any set asides? Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to set aside item 7.5 on the consent.
7.5. Okay. Are there any others? Okay, that takes us to the set aside item. I'll recognize the clerk.
Mayor, would you like to vote on the rest of the consent agenda items?
Yes, I guess we can go ahead and do that.
Thank you.
Move all remaining items for approval.
Thank, thank you, Commissioner Ramirez, and second by Commissioner Kump. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Bynum,
Aye.
Kump,
Aye.
Burns,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Pacheco,
Aye.
Lopez,
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
The vote is 8-0. Motion carries.
Thank you, clerk. All right, now we can go ahead and go to the set aside item.
Read it. Mayor, I'll read that for you.
Yes, please.
Okay. Item 7.5 is a resolution, House substitute for Senate Bill 244, adopting a resolution authorizing the county administrator to implement a policy related to ensuring compliance with House substitute for Senate Bill 244 regarding the designation and use of multiple occupancy private spaces in public buildings.
Are you gonna, Casey, you can please present? Thank you.
Okay. This was a bill recently passed by our Kansas legislature, which requires the designation of multi-occupancy private spaces in all public buildings associated with the gender that would use them. There are some exceptions to that requirement. Well, they all have to be designated, but there are some exceptions as far as use. And those exceptions include if somebody is part of a custodial or maintenance crew, if that individual is rendering medical or emergency assistance, if there's a person assisting an individual who requires help using the facility for any law enforcement purposes, if that individual is preventing a serious threat to safety or order, if there is a coaching or athletic training, when precautions are taken to ensure no individual is undressed, or if a child under 9 years of age is accompanied by a caregiver. This law was passed, it exists, and it's recommended that we pass a policy so that our staff knows basically what to do and what not to do. I just want to make it clear, this doesn't authorize an arrest. It doesn't authorize like a staff member stopping an individual from entering the bathroom or using the bathroom. The policy as it's written is based off of a template provided by the League of Kansas Municipalities. The language in it, there's nothing extra in the policy that is not required by the statute. And basically, if a staff member or if an employee wants to make a complaint, then that complaint would be directed to a supervisor who would then forward it to our human resources director or our buildings and logistics director. And then they would review the complaint and see if any necessary follow-up was necessary. Failure to comply with the statute results in some pretty significant civil penalties. The liability for the first civil penalty or first violation would be $25,000. If the issue wasn't remedied, then it would be $125,000 for each subsequent violation.
Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This resolution came through my committee we had some discussion and comments, and it seemed from my take on the committee, the most of us were reluctant on passing this, because we didn't believe it's not our, it's not staff's fault, or it's not staff's responsibility to be staff monitors. This is overreach from the state, but again, there are fines that that are attached to this, so we had to move it forward for full discussion. I personally do not support this. This is nothing but, it's another unfunded mandate that the state is providing to us. Again, staff being bathroom monitors, and we have other better things to worry about than worrying about who's using the restroom, in my opinion. But I wanted to set this aside because I voted to move it forward, but I personally do not support it and didn't want to have my yes vote recorded on it. Thank you.
Commissioner Comp.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Casey, for the recap on this ordinance. We've had a few discussions about this ordinance in the past. I'm also on the committee that voted to move this forward. And I made it clear during that committee meeting, I'll make it clear here again, I think this is government overreach. This is kind of ridiculous requiring us to follow these mandates, not funding it. During the committee discussions, a member of the public commented that, well, what if I have a 10-year-old? And they need help going to the bathroom. What should I do? And the answer was, it violates this state law. So that'd be a violation. That all being said, and I want to reiterate what I said at the committee meeting, when the state levies a first offense penalty of $25,000, then every subsequent penalty of $125,000 on us, it leaves us little choice. And I think despite how unnecessary, I'm trying to be political, trying to keep it professional, civil, despite how unnecessary I think this ordinance is, it's in the best interest of the county to pass it when we're talking about almost $500,000 in fines for 3 instances of noncompliance. So again, I voted to move this forward to committee. I will vote to approve it tonight because the county can't afford not to approve it, but I'm repulsed by it. Thank you.
Commissioner Bynum.
Thank you. If I could just understand, I see Section 8 complaint review and investigation. Have we actually developed a process by which complaints would be received?
It's in, once, if the policy is approved, then we will make sure it's pushed out to supervisors and department heads and conduct a training. This bill is a little interesting in that it applies to everyone, the members of the public that may be coming in and using a public facility, as well as our own employees. And so, if we have an employee that is unhappy with maybe a locker room space or a bathroom, and they make a complaint, that is going to be handled through the Human Resources Department. And if it's a member of the public, that's going to be handled through Buildings and Logistics. But if you approve it, that's when we would go forward with training and making sure everybody understands how to handle the policy.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lopez.
Yeah, I just want to ask, now I'm just going to play devil's advocate here. Does this have something to do with predators? With the state, this is trying to,
I don't know what the legislative intent originally behind bringing forth the bill was. I don't know the answer to that question.
okay, thank you.
Commissioner Davis.
Thank you. So this past, maybe 2 months ago, month and a half ago, give or take, just pretty recent. What have other cities or counties in Kansas done just as far? I mean, we're moving kind of lightning speed considering we don't have a process by which we would, it sounds like we don't have a process by which we could actually like make sure we're abiding by this.
Well, this would be the process. So it passed, if I recall, in April. There was a challenge in Douglas County District Court by the ACLU. The challenge, they were trying to file an injunction on the bill. That was not successful at the time, but it's still pending. And based off of my conversations with other municipalities, some of those cities are amending their ordinances to include language that addresses this. Some of them are passing policies. Some of them are handling it through internal policies and procedures. Our code, the way it's drafted, the way the bill is drafted, it says the governing body of each public building shall designate each multi-occupancy private space in such building for use only by individuals of one sex. The governing body shall take every reasonable step to ensure an individual does not enter a multi-occupancy private space that is designated for use only by individuals of the opposite sex. You are the governing body, and so our code is set up so that you are the ones that can approve a policy, which then Mr. Johnson would be in charge of implementing. Some of the cities are able to do like an internal policy without having it passed because their code is set up differently than ours.
Gotcha. Yeah, I can just see how this could turn into, on both sides, a very, very litigious situation if someone were to say, I do not identify with said designated space for a gender. And so you're telling me I have to use this space, governing body. And does that put us in that scenario? Are we at legal risk?
I would say no. So the process, the due process requirements in here are actually pretty stringent. Nothing, the reason a policy can be helpful sometimes in a situation like this, when the statute is passed, the law exists, whether people like it or not. A policy is helpful in making sure we don't have an employee that feels compelled because they heard about this law from stopping someone using the restroom. We don't want that to happen, right? So this basically lays out what we expect our staff to do. So if they were to receive a complaint, they're not supposed to do anything at that time. They report it, and then the follow-up investigation will take place. So if this policy is actually followed, I would think our risk would be pretty low. What we don't want to do is having staff trying to physically remove people or block people or do something like that, because that's not required from the statute. And we just want to make that very clear so that everybody is aware what's actually required in the statute.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Commissioner Pacheco.
Thank you, Mayor Pacheco, District 5. So actually to piggyback on that, because that was one of the things I was thinking about is, so then someone, I guess my main question is, so like if somebody were then to have a complaint about this, you don't think there's much legal risks necessarily, but also is the main function of passing something like this really just to say, we've got something on the books that complies with what you want us to do? And then the enforceability of it, who proves that?
Who proves the enforceability?
Yeah, who proves that we're enforcing it?
We would document our investigation.
Okay.
And we would comply with the statute. As far as if we have to notify the Attorney General's office, we would do that.
And we would only have like an investigation if some other employee says like, hey, that female went into the male bathroom. That's what I'm trying to get at. Like, where would we even get to a point in which we would have to report anything?
Well,
That's what I'm trying to understand.
right. So are you saying when would we get to the point that we would need to report it to the Attorney General's office?
Correct. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not trying, I'm, I'm not trying to make this sound like trying to skirt the law. What I'm saying is that like, if we have a policy like this, we end up passing it and it's there and it's on the books and we say, hey, we're in compliance with what you want us to do, state, fine. But internally, we would do training, fine, we'd prove that we've done all that, but actually enforcing it is incumbent upon us or not, right? And is there anybody who's
Well,
able to monitor whether or not we're complying by it unless somebody complains about it, I guess?
well, I would always suggest that if we have a policy that we follow the policy and we enforce our policy.
Okay,
If you read the policy, it's very uh, deferential. It's very, you know, there's a lot of due process requirements before a complaint would actually have to be submitted to the Attorney General's office.
Okay.
I guess I'll say it that way.
okay. And then very quickly, could you just repeat the financial implications, fines and all that, just really quickly, and how they would stack and how it would occur if we
Sure.
were not?
Any governmental entity that violates this section is liable for a civil penalty of $25,000 for the first violation and $125,000 for each subsequent violation. Each day of a continuing violation of this section constitute a separate violation.
Which 125,000 each subsequent day essentially is what that's saying.
Correct. And I will tell you, the statute also provides an opportunity for compliance. So if somebody were to go directly to the Attorney General's office and they contacted us and said, we received a complaint that you're not compliant, we have a time period to remedy whatever the issue is.
Mm.
Like if there is a multi-occupancy, like let's say there's a locker room that we don't have designated correctly, then we could easily fix that with a placard or a sign.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Commissioner Lopez.
Yeah, so like it says, so basically a child under 9 years of age accompanied by their caregiver or parent. So what if your daughter's 10 or 11? You know, I still wouldn't want my child going in the restroom by herself or by himself,
Mhm.
you know, which is what I'm getting at. And,
I understand.
you know,
Well,
so is that parent in trouble or possibly could be?
it would be investigated, and I'm sure, given the circumstances, you know.
Sorry, kid, we're going outside then. You know, I know, but I get it. I mean, but that's my,
What we certainly wouldn't want anybody to do is stop the kid and try to figure out how old the kid is right
Right.
then. Are you gonna allow that kid to use the bathroom or not? That is.
yeah,
not
I'm
the
just trying to
intent.
figure out why this senator won't push this to pass this thing. What, you know, what was his, intentions here? All right, thank you.
Commissioner Davis.
So Ms. Meyer, you said that there's currently a case right now pending, or what's the status in Douglas County?
Yeah, so they challenged it right after this was passed in April. The injunction was not successful. They continued it. I don't know the date of the next hearing, but if I recall, it's in a couple months.
If this were to be struck down, overturned, what have you, we have a lot going on right now in our judicial system. What would be the implication if that were to happen and then we pass this? Would we have to go back and then basically do this all over again and go back to our current policy? What would happen in that scenario?
So we don't have any policy at all right now. But if that were to happen, if it were overturned or enjoined, we would follow that law and we would, it's a policy. So we could internally say, hold off on the policy. We're not going to enforce this policy for now. And then we would come back in front of you and we would, it's not an ordinance or a well, it's a resolution passing the policy. So then we would appeal repeal the resolution.
We would repeal it if the courts came back and said
Yes.
it's not, okay, gotcha.
Yes, and
there, Commissioner, there's always a chance too that they could strike part of it, leave part of it standing. So it may be a situation where we bring back a modification to comply with the law that is standing at that time.
Gotcha. I am perplexed by how this gets enforced and in what scenario are we even contemplating that just wouldn't necessarily allow us to be I'm not just thinking city hall, I'm thinking our community centers, I'm thinking kind of across the board, and I'm assuming that other public spaces and other governing bodies are going to have to make a very similar decision. Um, and that can cause a lot of issues just going forward. I guess for me, I would have at the very like to have seen like just the mechanics of how do we enforce this in a way that keeps us somehow, some way compliant with this law, but not at risk of violating other laws or putting other people potentially in danger because of something like this. I understand the not wanting to get fined, of course. This is an ongoing tactic of just putting these large numbers and saying, do this thing, or these large penalties are coming. And we've seen this happen before with the Trump administration. And if I'm not mistaken, in regards to some of the DEI stuff, there still wasn't a ton there when we had voted on it. There weren't a lot of counties or cities that were victims or that had examples where they had to endure those fines. And so I just would have liked to seen, at the very least administratively, the mechanics before we vote on this, just to get clear on where we are going. Thank you.
Commissioner Bynum.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. The first one is about the penalty. You said 125,000 each subsequent day of what? Each subsequent day of,
But that the violation continues. So these are circumstances where maybe we don't have a locker room or a bathroom that has multiple spaces designated. Most buildings already have that, right? Most multi-occupancy bathrooms show female, male. Unisex bathrooms are also allowed. Family bathrooms are permitted under the statute, which when possible, we do that, and we will continue to designate any bathroom we can use for either or any gender, designate in that fashion, so.
okay, so that was kind of question number 2 under the proposed policy. Reasonable steps to ensure compliance include posting clear signage.
Correct.
And I assume we've basically done that
That is correct.
in all our facilities.
Yes, that is
And do
correct.
we happen to know if we actually have a facility inventory that identifies that we have indeed done that?
We've done that.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I could not remember, Casey, if this has a deadline. If the bill provided a deadline that local governments have to provide or pass the policy, part of it.
Right, the law became effective in, gosh,
Probably late April, early.
yeah, it is effective right now. It's not one that takes effect in July. I made sure, I mean,
What my question is do we have a deadline? Do local governments have a deadline to pass a policy to follow the new state law? Do you remember in the
No.
bill? If
no, there's no deadline, but just to make sure staff understands what their responsibilities are and are not. Since the law is active right now, it's recommended that we have a policy in place. For example, the policy makes it clear UG employees should not verify an individual's sex, request personal documentation, or directly confront individuals regarding the use of a multi-occupancy private space. Um, I think that kind of guidance is important when we have a law that some staff may misinterpret, because we don't want them to do something that they're not supposed to do, because that could cause some liability.
No, and I understand
Yeah.
that, and I completely understand that,
Uh-huh.
and I get that. Back to the point of what Commissioner Bynum was saying about the fees and
Mhm.
as long as the violation's continuing, how do we know when that violation is over and done? How is the state gonna know what data, what information are we gonna provide to either the legislature or to the AG's office that that violation is cured?
We would notify them that we designated the space in accordance with the statute.
So then why do we have to have an investigation if we just tell the AG's office that we have a designated sign in space?
Because the statute requires an investigation.
Okay,
For example,
it's very, not counterintuitive, but it's the AG saying, just provide us, or just say that you have a designated space, but then on this other side, you still have to do an investigation to get there. Which I cannot connect the dots.
I understand that the statute is confusing. I understand that. For an example, they lay out different ways. So if there's a complaint against the unified government, a person may file a complaint with the Attorney General directly against a governmental entity for a violation of the bill. And then it has to be in writing. So if this person provides the UG written notice describing the violation, and if the governing body does not cure the violation before the end of the third business day. So for example, if we didn't make sure that the locker room space or the multi-occupancy bathroom space was designated, which based on Mr. Kelly's review, we are in compliance already. But if there was somehow some bathroom that we're unaware of that's not appropriately designated, if we received written notice and we didn't comply and fix that issue, then that's when we could be subject to the penalty. If I was involved, I would make sure that we sent notification to the Attorney General's office that we've complied and designated our spaces appropriately.
Commissioner Davis.
Thank you. So I'm just trying to think kind of the logic here. So director, I'm at section 8, the director of human resources or director of buildings and logistics or their designee shall be responsible for reviewing complaints related to this policy. So I understand HR, just given the familiarity, right, with their job and investigations. Why buildings and logistics?
Because John Kelly's in charge of all the bathrooms in all the buildings
Gotcha. So
and signage.
So we would train that staff or whoever his designee is to do
Correct.
the investigation.
That's correct.
Okay. And then it says upon receiving a complaint, director of HR or director of buildings or logistics or their designee may review incident reports, speak with staff or witnesses, evaluate whether further action is appropriate. So regarding the review of the incident reports, I'm assuming with legal, there will be a process by which if they deemed it appropriate to review the incident, there would be a rubric or at least a standardized process by which that would take place.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Pacheco.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner Pacheco, District 5. So who is the actual compliance police or enforcer in this particular situation? Like, who's going to be going around to all the bathrooms in the state and like checking?
Well,
How does this even work?
so when the bill was passed, I talked to John Kelly. John Kelly did an inventory and made sure that we were in compliance as far as we know. like I said, there could be some bathroom that normally wouldn't have public access. Like I'm thinking in our legal department, we have one bathroom. It's a unisex bathroom. It's not, it's not something that normally anybody else would have access to. So there might be some bathrooms like that that we could be unaware of and, might not be included in our inventory. But based on what we have done so far, we're already in compliance.
And so we're in compliance, you think, and then the other thing is, we don't have a clearly identifiable person who's going around the state looking at everybody's bathrooms to figure out if they are in compliance or not. So then what I'm trying to figure out then is what is the main utility then of us actually passing something that if we're in compliance and if some state enforcer who does exist, who's checking our bathrooms, says, hey, you're not in compliance, then we could just get in compliance without passing a policy. Is that correct or is that not correct?
Well, the policy helps us direct staff and guide staff on how to stay in compliance. If we build a new, if we build a new fire station or a new police station, making sure that we're doing what we're supposed to do with the locker rooms and the bathrooms and that kind of thing. And also, uh, and I may have failed to include this, as far as the enforcer, it's the Attorney General's office. So so after the complaint, let's say somebody goes to the AG, makes a complaint against us, let's say we don't comply within 3 days, whatever. Section F1, before bringing an action against a governmental entity for a violation of this section, the Attorney General shall investigate the complaint to determine whether legal action is warranted. So what that investigation would look like, I assume, is seeing what our records were, what follow-up we did. Do you have a policy in place that makes it clear you're trying to comply with the statute? Things like that. And they would likely take that into consideration when making their determination on how to proceed.
Okay, so what I just heard there is the main utility, having a policy in place, is that if somehow, some way, somebody creates a complaint, that then would be investigated by the Attorney General. Then we can at least say, yep, we have a policy, guys, and we trained our staff, for a couple hours or whatever, and that's it. I mean, that's the utility of this to me. Which is fine. I mean, we can do that, and it sounds like we're in compliance with what we need to be doing anyway, so I don't mind passing it. I don't want to put us at any financial risk. But if the main reason is for us to have a policy in place that puts us in a little bit better of a defensible position, then so be it. Otherwise, this does reek of government overreach, and I don't like it either, but I think I agree with some of the sentiments of Commissioner Kump as well from a financial standpoint. So I'll let everybody else deliberate.
Commissioner Lopez.
Yeah, so right now I'm just seeing like 8 exceptions. Are there more exceptions that we're not seeing?
No, those are the exceptions that were included in the statute.
'Cause I was, okay. So I was texting a legislator about this, and he's like, well, there are exceptions. I was like, so basically a parent could be charged if they're taking their 10-year-old, basically. And he said, well, there's exceptions. Well, that's not one of them here.
Well, and again, you said charged. I just want to caution everybody that, and I will say, when it was first passed, some law enforcement asked, well, what's our responsibility as far as citing? That's not what this statute says. So like, a citation would only be a possibility if that person was provided written notice, if there was an investigation, if they were advised that that's not the appropriate multi-occupancy private space they were supposed to use. And then that person may appeal that determination. And then, so when I see there's a lot of due process in the statute and in the policy, that's kind of what I'm talking about. Then any individual who commits a second violation after being found to have violated this section shall be liable for a civil penalty of $1,000. So first, that potential violator would be liable for a civil penalty. So it's not a charge yet. And then,
I'm sorry, I should have said hemp.
no, that's okay. I just want to make, there's a civil penalty and then there's a potential criminal penalty only if any individual who commits a third or subsequent violation shall be guilty of a Class B misdemeanor. So only then, your third one, you could potentially be cited for a Class B misdemeanor.
Okay. See, and then there's another thing is a parent taking their child to the restroom that's older than 9, then, I mean, somebody's got to point it out first to say, hey, this needs to be looked at, but then find out, oh, it's a parent. Well, then, okay, we're good. Right.
Right.
I think more like if there's an obvious issue. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Bynum.
Thank you. Bynum at large 1. So to the fines for compliance, do I understand correctly that there's only a fine for non-compliance after an AG investigation that finds that we're at fault? If the process is the AG investigates.
So the bill is written interestingly, I'll just say it that way. But that's how I would like to interpret it, is that we would only be potentially liable for the fine if we were in violation and we failed to comply with the requirements within 3 days.
Okay, so AG finds us out of compliance. We immediately correct that. There's no fine. Like the day he notifies us or she that we're out of compliance, we correct that day, no fine is levied.
I think we would be fine in that
Okay,
situation.
thank you.
Okay. We good? At this time, I'll entertain a motion. Pacheco?
Um, I'm going to motion to approve, but a final thought. So once again, I think this is more of like a utility argument than anything. It's like, okay, we have this in place so that way, if any of this even gets down the chain to us, which it sounds like it's very unlikely to because we're in compliance anyway, and we would have a way to rectify it pretty easily. We could just go buy a sign at Walmart that says male or female and put it up there and show a picture to the Attorney General, and that'd be probably good enough. I mean, truly, this is what we're talking about. I motion to approve simply so we have this in place at the recommendation of our legal staff, so we have a process in place that would help us with our defense if we ever were in non-compliance. We'd say, yep, we have our procedures in place. That is truly my only reason for motioning to approve.
Need a second.
Come to at large. I'll second, but I just want to, before I do, I'll say I sure hope the state gives as much energy and vigor into finding property tax relief for their citizens as they did to this program. So I'll second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Pacheco and second by Kump. Roll call, please.
Roll call Bynum,
Aye.
Kump,
Aye.
Burns,
Aye.
Ramirez,
No.
Hill,
Aye.
Pacheco,
Aye.
Lopez,
No.
Davis.
No.
The vote is 5-3. The motion fails. Mayor, I'm sorry. You get to vote.
Aye.
The vote is 6-3. The motion carries.
Thank you. We have 3 items under our standing committee agenda this evening regarding proposed rates for stormwater utility, sanitary sewer, and solid waste fees. First item, item number 9.1, addresses stormwater utility rates. I will turn the matter over to our county administrator, Mr. David Johnson, for opening remarks and introduction of staff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is something that comes before the commission every year to determine the rate structure that will generate necessary revenue to fund projects, annual projects. To provide further information on this, I will turn the mic over to our Director of Public Works, Troy Shaw. Troy?
Troy Shaw, Director of Public Works. So we've had this presentation. This is the exact same thing we've had. I think most of you have seen it already a couple times. Just a heads up on this one, we have, based off feedback from last time, we reorganized it a little bit and broken it up so that the solid waste is first, then we'll talk about stormwater, then we'll talk about sanitary sewer separately, and then you can elect to vote on those separately to try to keep it clear and more concise. We've also added one additional slide in there just for clarification to help kind of show you where we're at in the process and what happens as we move forward. So we'll keep it short since we've all seen it, and welcome to ask any questions you want whenever you have them. So real quick, as you're aware, historically we've came to commission annually, especially on sanitary sewer and solid waste, and voted every year along with the budget process on what the rates would be the next year. That causes a little bit of complication on staff's end in multiple ways. First of all, if we're doing it 1 year at a time, we never have the ability to plan going forward. Industry standard on these rates is 3 to 5 years. Going forward, we're just looking for 1 year right now, but going forward, we'll be back next year to talk about another 3 years going forward from there, and then we'll be on a 4-year cycle after that. So that's the intent going forward, at least with the storm and the sanitary, the ones that have larger capital projects that we have to plan out. So just to reiterate, we're just talking about this year right now, or 26 amended and then 27 rates. So if we get those approved, what we'll do with that is we will give the results of those rates, the projects, the work that we'll do, and that will go into the budget this year in 27. So you'll see that in the budget. So that's a big improvement over last year because we're just kind of guessing because we don't really know what rates you're going to approve as we go through the budget process. So we'll have the rates approved. We'll put those results of the rates in the budget. So you'll see that going through the whole process, and you'll trying to get more clear on what we're doing and how we're doing it. So real quick, we'll start with solid waste, go through that, turn it over to Diana. She can talk about that, and then welcome to have discussion on solid waste, and then we'll move on to the next topic. Real quick, this is the slide we added. The orange boxes, the one on the left, that's where we're at right now. We're just talking about the rates. The funding sources, we don't need to worry about that. We don't need to worry about any loans, how it's done. We're really just talking about the rates. After that, then we go through the how stuff's funded. We work with finance, budget, you guys, the administrator's office to figure out how we get the most out of the dollars you've provided. And there's different funding sources that could do that, whether it's cash, debt, different forms of debt that we could use. So that's all to be done in the future. And you can see those bonds are issued later. So we're really just talking about what rates do you want to approve for amended 26 and 27 right now. So the rest of the stuff we'll get to later. Like I said, decisions out of this, we really just want to know the rates, and we've been over it already once, so we'll hit on that real quick. And I'll turn it over to Diana to start with solid waste.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Diana Miles, the solid waste manager. So the solid waste rate is based on equity and allocation. The KCK residents are currently subsidizing services such as the city and county facility trash collection, city department waste, illegal dumping, graffiti, and additional services such as household hazardous waste and dumpster days for Bonner and Edwardsville residents. So the question here is whether KCK residents should continue to subsidize these costs. So we have a couple of challenges within the rate. The first one gives you a little more detail of what KCK residents subsidize. This includes city facility collection as well as county facility collection, such as the courthouse, fire stations, police stations, the NRC. City department waste, that includes street department, parks and rec, illegal dumping disposal, and graffiti. So this totals to an amount of over $600,000 per year. The second challenge that we face as well is that although we have an interlocal with Bonner and Edwardsville for their residents to utilize our services such as household hazardous waste and dumpster days, they have a fee of $3.54 per visit. The actual cost is $208. So in this slide, we have three different scenarios. The first scenario A, this is where KCK residents continue to subsidize all services. It stays the same, and that would be an increase in 2027 of $1.31 for a monthly fee of $21.46. Scenario B, this allows KCK residents to not subsidize anything. This would remain the same. The rate would not increase, and it would stay at $20.15. Scenario C, this would allow Bonner and Edwardsville residents to pay their fair share to utilize our services. And this would be an increase of $1.20, making it $21.35 per month. So based on this information, we're seeking directions in order to move forward.
We're going to take them individually with the solid waste. Commissioner Comp.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple questions. Do we have any data of how many people in Bonner or Edwardsville utilize our like household hazardous waste and dumpster days?
I do have some. So I know dumpster days this past weekend, we had 466 visitors, and out of that, only 21 from Bonner and Edwardsville.
Okay, and that kind of brings me to my second question, but point. Didn't Bonner, or are they very soon hosting their own kind of dumpster day? I think on maybe May 20th. And it's free of charge to Bonner residents, is that correct?
Yes, they are having their own event. I'm not sure of the date.
Okay, I think it was, I was on their website earlier. So it sounds to me like going forward, they'd be less incentivized to use our dumpster days because they have one that they don't have to pay the $3 to use. So, no other questions for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Bynum.
Thank you. At-large one. The slide ahead of this one. Costs in residential rates. So the fiscal 26 impact of $669,000 represents what again?
So that would be the trash collection for city facilities, county facilities, city department waste, illegal dumping, and graffiti.
That is,
So all the disposal rates for all of those.
that's the cost for solid waste, to collect all the trash at every UG-owned building,
Yes,
whether it's a county building or a city building.
that is correct.
And that 669,000 is being paid for by Kansas City, Kansas ratepayers.
That is
Is that
correct. Yes.
right? So where do you suggest that $669,000, we have to pick up the trash. Where do you suggest that multi-$100,000 fee be moved to, if you will, in our budget?
Yeah, so budget would have to allocate funds for those services from the county and city general fund.
Those would move to general fund.
Correct.
And when you talk about the equivalent of $1.11 per household per month, you're just saying that's what it breaks down to, that cost of 669,000.
Yes, that is correct for each home. So there's
Okay.
50,000 homes.
Okay, so if you would go to the slide after this one, then. I'm struggling to understand the differences in B and C.
Okay, so scenario B, that would, the KCK residents would only pay for residential trash service from Waste Management, household hazardous waste, dumpster days, and the Recycle and Yard Waste Center. So that would, the fee would, the monthly rate would stay the same for 2027 because they would not be paying for any facility or any facility costs or illegal dumping costs or graffiti, nor would they be paying for Bonner and Edwardsville residents to utilize our services. So that's taking all of that away and just paying for the residential services. And also includes the increase for waste management. If you take all that away, it still remains the same.
Okay.
Scenario C is where they will continue to pay for city facilities, illegal dumping, disposal, graffiti, but would not be paying for Bonner and Edwardsville residents to utilize their service, our services.
Scenario C
That
removes the ability of a Bonner or Edwardsville resident to take advantage of household hazardous waste or dumpster days, but our ratepayer in KCK continues to pay for trash removal, trash pickup at every unified government-owned building.
correct.
And that is why it has a $1.20 increase over
Yes.
scenario B.
Yes, and so if we look at scenario C and compare it to scenario A, where scenario A, you keep everything the same, the difference is a month, the increase would be 11 cents. It's a very minimal amount, but when you think about 50,000 homes every month, then that starts to add up. It's over $5,000 every month.
Thanks.
Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Kind of piggybacking off of Commissioner Bynum's about those internal services that we're currently funding. Those are important. Our residents rely on, well, not residents, but we as a government, the city facility collecting of our trash and our waste, but also of illegal dumping. That is one of the most number one issues that, along with property taxes and infrastructure, illegal dumping is one of the one issue that we hear a lot. And I, for one, would like to keep it where it currently is and funded. And graffiti cleanup. That's something I remember when I first started, that was a big thing of trying to clean up the graffiti around the community. And we've done a good job of that. And so I know if we didn't fund it, we would have to find it elsewhere. That $669,000 we'd have to take from somewhere else. From some other department, some other program, some other service, while we're currently funding those. And I think if we were to is there a possibility if we were to let Bonner and Edwardsville, quote unquote, go from and not participate in these services, is there a way for our department, our environmental services, or our public works to work with them to help them organize their own events? Would that, just to provide them advice, would that be something that you think they'd be willing to take? Or do they do on their own?
So
Or do they really want to maintain the services that we're currently giving?
well, I will be very honest that a household hazardous waste event is very expensive. It costs anywhere from 20 to 40,000 for one event. So I don't know how they would benefit from doing it themselves, but it is possible. But they would probably have a high cost for every resident that uses if they were to do their own.
Okay.
If we did, it's Troy Shaw, if we did the household hazardous waste, and Diana, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're billing them at $3 and something cents for them to come to that and drop something off. Every resident is paying that much per month with their bill to use that service, whether they use it or not. So what we could do is actually charge Bonner right now through an amended agreement compared to the original one and charge them for whatever the actual cost of the service is, not just the $3.15. So we could still provide the service to them. It's just going to be more expensive when we send a bill to the city of Bonner or Edwardsville based on the number of people they have that use it every year.
Okay. And then scenario A is everything that is currently being done, everything stays. But with 2027, the fee for everybody goes up $1.31.
Yes,
Is that how I'm reading
Yeah.
that chart?
that is
Okay,
correct.
thank you.
So I'll note one thing that you said, just for clarity about the city services and keeping those, and because we have a fund here that's funding those. So one thing we think of, and Diana noted at the beginning, is equity and how we're working it. So this is a fee. So you show up at a homeowner of your house, you have a house with your solid waste, you're paying that fee for the service that is provided to you. No different than your sanitary service. It comes, you're paying for that, your water service the BPUs provides, you're paying for the amount of water you use. So with that fee comes, you're paying for that trash service that comes every week, the recycling service that comes every week. You're also paying currently for me to throw a piece of trash in a dumpster right here with that fee, as opposed to the taxes that you pay as well covering the city facility. So we're just trying to provide you information just to make sure everybody understands that this fee is, the way it's written is for the individual homeowner as they throw trash away, recycle, use the solid waste facilities, not necessarily intended for the city, because the city is not paying a fee to solid waste for that. We're using the fees collected from the individual to pay our own fee. So it's just a matter of how you want to shift the money. I just want to make sure it's clear that that's what's going on, because we want to make sure everybody understands what you're doing.
That explanation just sparked another thought. Oh, the wording you used. The government, we as the government are not paying the fee to get our trash collected. We're placing it on the community to pay for our collection of trash.
Correct.
Yes, that's correct.
That changes the thought in my head.
Doing it
So-
either way.
Well,
Pay either way, the property taxes or.
Oh.
Well,
okay, I see.
like,
That's the trade.
if I can add something, so when we have we're funding departments to get rid of their waste and disposal and all of that. So understanding that, the challenge is that sometimes, and I'm not blaming anyone in particular, but they don't take consideration of what's being disposed of. Or an example is illegal dumping. So if we're handling illegal dumping, is there a process where we're not collecting items that are dumped on private property? Because the KCK resident is paying for that. It should be on the property owner. So when you have a solid waste fee or a division that's paying for that, other departments may not be aware or thinking of that when making the decision to collect those items. And so if it was to be pushed out to a department, they would take some ownership and accountability on their process and thinking twice about collecting those items. An example is the fleet division changed where every division has their bucket of money in order to order their vehicles or equipment or replace them. So they take care of their items because they don't want to spend that bucket of money as much, or they want to, expand that amount for the whole year. And so that takes accountability and taking care of the items because they're funding it. So I just wanted to add that.
It's also a consistency thing, because Jeff will correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Environmental Services pays for their own trash fee to dispose of it, and from a Public Works, and the Street Department does not. Both of those are Public Works divisions, but they operate separately on this individual topic. So there's just not consistency throughout the government either on the way it's handled at every building necessarily. So I don't know the answer. I'm just giving information out.
That's correct. Jeff Miles, Director of Environmental Services. So yes, the Environmental Services is an enterprise fund. So we pay for water, we pay for electricity, we pay for trash removal, as well as biosolids disposal into the landfill. So we have our own contract with Waste Management that we handle directly. And I believe we're the only department that actually pays for trash disposal.
If you did, dang, that was loud. If you did, would that add to this rate? If you didn't?
If
If you
I'm s-
didn't pay
if we
it,
didn't,
would it
yeah.
add to this rate?
It would. And then just on that topic, and I know we're going to get in this in a minute, but we do supply free wastewater treatment to both all UG facilities as well as BPU. So it's a little lopsided there.
Okay, Commissioner Davis.
Thank you, Mary, and good evening, Public Works team. Are businesses included in this? Okay, so we're just talking residential. How does it work for businesses? You all just remind me, they have their own, they procure their own trash services?
Yes, they contract their own commercial service.
Gotcha. Okay, and then the graffiti, internal services, right, the collection, all that stuff. Is that number that you all threw out, it's like $669,000, is that just to maintain the current level of activity? Will we see an increase? Like, what does that number do going forward for the average resident?
So the amount that we showed today is the anticipated amount for this year, based on the numbers from last year.
Gotcha. So it's kind of what we expect to spend.
Yes.
Could be more, could be less, depending upon. Gotcha. Okay. And then it's my understanding that buildings and logistics is involved on our cleanup efforts. Are they also drawing from this $669,000, or is there additional dollars for the cleanups and all the work they do?
So for those, for the disposal of all of those items that they collect during cleanups, solid waste is funding that, paying for that.
Gotcha. Okay, so we have just kind of some interdepartmental workings for that. Okay. And then I see recycling's not mentioned. Where does recycling play into all of this?
Are you asking about like the cost for it?
Yeah.
That's included within the recycling rate with your trash fee, monthly trash fee.
Gotcha.
So Waste Management gets a set amount for both trash and recycling.
Gotcha. Well, while we're on the topic, do we have any timeline on when the rest of Wyandotte County, specifically my district, will get carts?
It's up to you all. But I would like to come before the commission this summer to get that rolling in the fall.
Okay, because in Midtown, I keep getting beat up about it. So I would like to at least tell them there's been some progress. Thank you.
Commissioner Lopez.
Yeah, I was gonna ask the same question that Commissioner Davis asked, but with the carts, as far as I know, we were still under a pilot program. How much? Yeah, longer, but as it seems like, I mean, it's like a love-hate thing right now. I've even said a few times that I'm find myself recycling more. But at the same time, I can't seem to get my carts picked up at my shop, but at my house to get picked up, but not my shop. But so I just got to take them. It's just me at my house, so then I have enough trash so I can just take them over to my house the following week and then get done. But what? Okay, and I'm sorry, I'm just lost. I'm sorry. Yeah, Commissioner Davis answered my question, and then I was just trying to. Never mind. So thank you.
Come back. Commissioner Bynum.
Thank you. Commissioner Lopez, congratulations on increasing your recycling. That's really exciting news to hear. And I sincerely appreciate it. I gotta go back to our I gotta go back to our 669,000. So part of it is paying for the illegal dumping.
Yes.
And okay, so I just feel a certain way about, as I've said many times, especially just in the last few weeks, it's completely unacceptable behavior for people to do this. It might take a generation. I don't know how long it's going to take to convince people who live here and people who don't to stop it. But some of us live in more rural areas and it's a regular occurrence. And I might think that if we can isolate how much that is of the monthly trash bill. I might prefer that we all collectively share that cost, as we do right now, apparently, then put that on that individual homeowner, especially if that's an elderly person and somebody decided to dump their whole living room in their ditch, and there's no way they can afford to clean that up themselves. So I wouldn't really want to put that on some places I'd love to put it on the property owner, but most of us are just victims of that. So I would lean more toward leaving the, illegal dumping cleanup on the monthly bill and spreading it out across the population rather than placing it on one singular property owner, just my opinion. Thank you.
Commissioner Pacheco.
Thank you, Mayor. Pacheco, District 5, Ms. Miles. So for the public, I guess, could you, with the three scenarios, if we could get those back up there one more time. So of the three scenarios, which is the one, in your opinion, that stops the subsidy of, that would stop KCK residents from subsidizing Bonner and Edwardsville? Which scenario is that, just for the public? Because I think I already know the answer, but just go ahead and put that out there.
Scenario C.
Scenario C. And it positively financially would affect KCK residents because they would have a little bit less of a subsidy of other folks in the community. The only thing on that chart that I'm trying to figure out is that $1.20 now every person in Wyandotte County
Yes, or no, in KCK.
in KCK?
Yes, so that $1.20 would fund the internal services, graffiti, illegal dumping disposal, city facilities.
Okay, but no longer would it only be on KCK residents, it would also, so that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Okay, so scenario C is excluding Bonner and Edwardsville residents to utilize our services. So KCK residents would pay for residential services plus the internal services such as city facilities, county facilities, illegal dumping, graffiti.
Okay, so it's not that the cost gets spread, it's just that certain folks in the community, Wyandotte County, Bonner Springs and Edwardsville cannot use those things that KCK residents are paying for.
Correct.
Okay, is there any scenario in which the cost gets spread then up here? In the way that I'm trying to say, if you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yes, it would be scenario C because that would exclude Bonner and Edwardsville for KCK residents to subsidize their services. So we would, for 2027, amend that agreement saying this is the cost, the new cost based on our findings.
And then like what Troy was saying is basically, well, because we were charging you whatever $3.50 or whatever before, then we could say, well, you could use it. KCK residents aren't going to pay for you to use it anymore, but this is what kind of a true consumer cost is to use this service, and that's how you would do it. Okay, I motion for C.
Commissioner Davis.
Thank you. Quick question. So we put, I think it was $100,000 in the budget for cameras and to try to really get ahead of the illegal dumping because I'm just not excited about like, hey, let's put more money towards this issue. So can someone just kind of speak to what that process has been? Did that land with Public Works? Did it land with PD? Who's responsible for allocating those dollars and making sure that the cameras are being put up?
Jeff Miles, Director of Environmental Services. That Building Logistics is spearheading that along with KCK PD. Although Public Works have assisted with trimming trees and picking up brush where they're going to hang some of these. So it's a full team effort, but they're spearheading it.
Gotcha. Okay, because I just wanted to get some. And then remind me just one more time, and my apologies if you've been redundant. the city facility collection is what our departments, or it's paying for what our departments incur as far as cost for disposing of their
Yes.
trash?
Yes, it's a city and county facility, so I say county because of the courthouse. And yes, like fire stations, police stations, NRC, city hall, health department, all of that is included.
Gotcha. And they are doing that through waste management as well?
Yes, so we have, yes, we utilize their services.
And has that always been the case?
Yes, it has, prior to me being in solid waste, it was funded through city funds. And in, I think, 2023 or 22, it became an enterprise fund where it was just the rates collected by the KCK residents.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Lopez.
Okay, yeah, so, scenario C is to, exclude, but also like, I mean, to where the residents pay even for the illegal dumping. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, because I hate the fact they have to, but at the same time, that they're gonna ante up and say, hey, my neighbor's the one that's dumping over there. And, or they'll yell at their neighbor, say, hey, you know what, I'm watching you dump, and I know you're the one dumping. And guess what? We all have to pay for the crap that you're dumping. So I'm looking at it that way too. Not just, hey, we have to pay for our own trash, but now everybody on the street knows what ding dong is dumping his stuff, and and I'm using that I'm saying ding dong because everybody's tired of all the illegal dumping. And I guarantee the neighbors, everybody knows which neighbor's doing it. And now, guess what? Now the neighbors have to pay for that. So, and I second that. Thank you.
Commissioner Bynum.
But I am now confused again because I thought I heard you say in answer to Commissioner Lopez's question that scenario C, well, I think it says Bonner and Edwardsville need to pay for their own participation in household hazardous waste and dumpster days. But I thought you just confirmed to him that scenario C removes the illegal dumping
No,
costs.
no,
Okay, so that's not what you just said.
correct.
So scenario C, let me say this to you and you tell me if I'm right, includes weekly residential trash pickup,
Yes.
picking up all the trash in any UG-owned building, paying for illegal dumping, but does not allow residents in Bonner and Edwardsville to participate for free or even the $3 fee
Correct.
in the two special days. So what conversations have we had with
Thank you.
Bonner and Edwardsville to alert them that this is a scenario that we might consider and adopt? And if we do adopt this, does it begin January 1 so that we have time to work with them, that they can still come, but the city's going to get a bill quarterly or whatever?
Correct. It would stay the same for 2026, and then it would be, we would work with them on what it would look like for 2027.
Commissioner Davis.
I'm leaning towards scenario C as well. Just two thoughts. Number one, it on the Bonnet Springs Edwardsville piece, it could be we send the cities, respective cities a bill. It also could be just looking at their ID or whatever you use for verification and just saying you have to pay more. No different than somebody from Shawnee, right? Where it's like, hey, you want to do it? Actually, we might be able to make some money off of this if it all works out, where people can come in and we can have a metro-wide deal. And hey, if you're not a KCK resident, you have to pay for it. And if we can make a profit out of it, that would be great. The other thing I'll just throw out there has nothing to do with Public Works, but perhaps we might take a page out of Topeka's book and develop an ordinance that incentivizes residents to catch illegal dumping. We do a cash prize, or we do have that, okay, then we need to go and either add to that prize or work with communications and promote it. Because I think it's going to be impossible for you all to catch it, for PD to catch it. We need our community to be involved in helping us catch illegal dumping. Thank you.
Okay, I just want, before y'all, I want you to just think about something. I mean, if we're going for, let me ask a question. Y'all said y'all hadn't talked to Edwardsville Bonner, correct?
I'm sorry, what was that?
You haven't had a conversation with Edwardsville or Bonner?
No.
All right. Um, I'm kind of torn. Let me ask you this. What are you recommending? Which scenario would you recommend for the commission board? Because you're giving us 3 scenarios. What is, in a perfect world, which one do you recommend?
Right thing to do would be scenario B.
It would be scenario B?
Yes, that is the right thing to do for KCK residents.
So, and the rationale behind that, and I would agree with that, is the fact that it's a fee. So your individual house, you're paying a fee for your own service. What we're doing is you're paying a fee for your service and the city's trash service at the same time, when typically your fee covers what your fee covers for yourself, and then your taxes cover the other services for the city. That's just typically how it works. So that would be why we would recommend that. Now, that takes out the fact of, I know it has to be funded somewhere. That takes all that out of the consideration. It's just, it's a fee, so it should fund what the individual is paying for with the fee.
That was a slap in the head. Okay, so Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I get scenario B. I do. I do think it's the fairest option. It's the fairest scenario. But again, going to what we saying budget constraints, I know Dr. Knieven can tell us, Mr. Lindsay could tell us of all of our budget constraints. Those are other expenses that have been historically taken care of by this rate. And now we would have to find other ways of funding them if we went through option B. And it is a hard pill to swallow, scenario B. It is. I want us to be fair to KCK residents and then pay for what they only use. That's fair. But it's just a hard pill to swallow when we would have to find somewhere in the budget 669,000 minus or plus for 2027 for those services to continue. And again, that goes back to the balancing act. If we're going to spend more, what other service are we going to do less to make that a net zero? And that's the hard pill to swallow, is what are we going to pay? What are we going to spend on to get these other services? That's why I'm leaning more towards scenario C. I would love to vote for scenario B. But in the moment, we don't have the data. We don't have information of how we could pay that from the general fund. And that, again, I feel like with this, we're kind of putting the cart before the horse with that scenario. And you can push back and say we're not, but that's just my interpretation of it.
No, and I'll say I don't disagree, and I don't envy your decision at all that you have to make. We're here giving you information, and so hopefully it gives you more than you need. That's our goal. But
Yeah.
to your point of kind of putting the cart before the horse, I would almost think of it the other way as well. That if you make this decision, you're making it before the budget season, so that gives you a budget season to find that. If the commission truly believes that B is the way to go, great. Then you can use the budget season to figure out how you're gonna get there. I'm not disagreeing. I just want to say there's another way to look at it, but I'll also say, maybe it doesn't have to be a one year fits all. Our recommendation obviously is it's a fee, so it should be B. That's just because of how a fee is written. But I think there could be a consideration of a commission if every year you want to start looking at that 700,000, 669,000 and saying, all right, next year when you come back, we're going to look at the increase, break that down. How much is illegal dumping? How much is funded by the facilities that we're throwing away? And if there's an intent to every year knock a chunk off of that a little bit every year, eventually you'll get back down to what that is without having to take a $700,000 leap at once. Maybe it's 100,000 a year because we can start knocking off individual things. And in 5-6 years, you get that knocked down so that we swap it over. Just an idea that may be considered going forward.
Commissioner Davis.
Thank you. I'm curious. I was not expecting staff's answer to be scenario B for recommendation. So 2 questions. Under scenario B, what happens to graffiti cleanup? What happens to illegal dumping? Does that remain, or what happens?
No, budget would have to find the funds for all of those services.
Gotcha. Okay. So we would have to basically fund it either through property taxes, sales tax, or something else. Okay. And then regarding the city or even slightly county trash collection services, you all have the number 669,000. Is that an estimate, or do you have it itemized where you can tell us, here's how much it costs specifically for trash services for the city and county?
So we do have, we're working on a study, yes. In order to finalize that study, we wanted to know what direction you wanted to go to predict what the increase would be for the next several years. But yes, we do have that amount.
Okay, that would be helpful to know, because I would imagine a bifurcated, if we are going to go down the road, because I get what you all are wanting to say, which is like, as a government, we need to be mindful of our waste and how much energy we use. And sometimes we're not mindful of that. And then the bill comes and we're like, why is the bill so high? And it's like, it's in part because we're not tracking our own activity as we use things and as things go into waste and whether or not we're recycling, all that stuff. And so I'm intrigued by that idea. I don't know if at this juncture, this would be the route to go, but incentivizing department heads to think through logistically what their recycling and waste habits are is intriguing. And I do think we should do that. What I wouldn't want to do is, illegal dumping is already such an issue. I wouldn't want us to not have the ability to do what we're doing right now, which our residents would say is nowhere near enough, right? I think having that direct relationship of your fee goes up, but listen, all of this illegal dumping has been happening. We have to find a way to pay for it. Here's a way to do it. By the way, if you want to stop it from happening, you should use our ordinance and go and track someone down that's been breaking the law because somebody's doing it. So I like that direct relationship where they see it on the bill instead of it going up in the ether of the general fund, and then I don't really know where my property taxes are going. It becomes much harder. Yeah, I'm probably still on scenario C, but perhaps in 2027, when you all have more information, we can have some sort of a pilot program and have departments track their waste and recycling habits and then maybe make a different decision.
Before I go to Commissioner Pacheco, I'm just concerned about scenario C, just because we haven't had a conversation with Bonner Springs and Edwardsville. And why isn't Lake Quivira added? Aren't they part of the county?
Yes, they are,
I know it's only 5 houses, but
we don't service them.
Johnson County covers it? Okay, I just want to make sure. I really think as a courtesy, we should have that conversation before we impose this on them with a vote. Having relationships and positive relationships with them is important. And so I just want us to consider that before we vote on it, or if you contemplate scenario C. Commissioner Pacheco.
Thank you, Mayor. And before I make my point, I would say, No, I do appreciate the comment that you just made, and so for me, I mean, the underlying issue with scenario C is just basically, well, this at least sets the playing field, so to speak, as evenly as we can possibly do as a hard reset to then move forward in future budgetary discussions and in future, reports back from our staff of how we would allocate funds and like, okay, this is exactly what Troy said, then you can kind of convert it over time. Scenario C to me is truly the only fair thing for the most citizens. I mean, currently, if we don't do scenario C, even having not had conversations with those two other cities, still a portion of the county residents, Kansas City, Kansas residents, are subsidizing services for another part of the county. And to me, that's just the underlying crux of the issue. Like, we have to at least set that playing field. And though I completely appreciate what staff is saying about scenario B, and I think that makes sense, I think it's more of a uh, it's really more of a fairness issue. And really, I don't expect, some residents of Bonner and Edwardsville to, jump for joy at the fact, but it is the fair thing. And so I do appreciate the fact that we absolutely have to have, I mean, we are commissioners for the entire county, which includes our residents from Bonner and Edwardsville, and I never lose sight of that. I represent them just as equally as everybody else, but I think this is the most fair thing for the most amount of people. I would still continue with my motion for C.
Commissioner Bynum.
Thank you. I can agree with scenario C. My request would be the same as the mayor's. Just table the vote until we have a conversation. And I don't think we're talking about a large amount of money involving Bonner Springs and Edwardsville, because I think I heard you say it's a couple $100 per trip,
208.
208, and we
Yes.
had 21 Bonner and Edwardsville residents. So that, just that dumpster days is $4,000. That divided between those two cities, however many residents of each city, it's not an astronomical amount of money, but I would prefer that we dialogue with them first, that this is under consideration by the commission, that we ask those two cities to pay their portion of dumpster days, and household hazardous waste.
Yes,
right?
that also includes the Recycling and Yard Waste Center. I would like to remind you all that they also created their own dumpster days only for Bonner Springs residents. So KCK residents are not allowed. They also chose to contract themselves with waste management aside from KCK residents. So they have done their own thing for their own residents.
No, but I would really like for us to try to be considerate of each other since we're all in the same county. We've had this with them for years. And I mean, at what point are we gonna be trying to do what's right for just the county as a whole? Even though I know we are separated by cities. Okay, Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Couple things. So, yes or no, whatever option is chosen for the remainder of 2026, nothing changes. Correct.
Correct.
Correct. Okay.
Bonner and Edwardsville still participate. Those three other internal services are still paid. This is just 2027 and beyond, or just for 2027,
Correct.
that's being affected.
Yes.
Now, let's say, go play a scenario, if we went with scenario C. And let's say Bonner and Edwardsville are no longer participating in hazardous waste days, dumpster days. Is there a scenario where, let's say, a Bonner resident comes to one of our dumpster days or the hazardous waste dump day? Is there a way we can, quote unquote, bill the city of Bonner instead of saying, no, you can no longer participate, you just bill the city for every resident that participates in one of the city services that we are providing.
Yes, so that's what we currently do. So for last year, we sent them the number of residents that came to our services, and then they paid us at the end of the year. So that's what we do this year. We track the numbers and addresses of the residents from Bonner and Edwardsville, then we invoice them. And so scenario C doesn't necessarily mean they cannot use our services. It's that KCK residents are not subsidizing that cost. That we can still work with them to figure out a cost. It's not just saying we're not wanting to do anything with you. I will remind the commission that a few years ago, Bonner Springs did used to pay that extra fee, that $2-3. However, when we shared that cost of service study a few years ago, they decided not to pay anymore. And because Edwardsville was not paying. So they had a good reason that if they're gonna be paying, why wasn't Edwardsville paying? So they just completely stopped paying, and it took us almost 2 years to start charging them a fee to use our services, and that's where the $3.54 came from. So before, Bonner residents paid that every month, that little extra that every KCK resident pays. Bonner Springs did that for every resident every month if they use the service or not. But then again, when we shared the cost of service study back then, they decided to stop paying because Edwardsville was not paying.
Thank you. And I think that's my questioning, those questions were trying to clarify that if we went with scenario C, it does not completely bar Bonner and Edwardsville from participating.
Okay.
We will just now have to figure out a way to recoup that, not recoup, but get there for Bonner and Edwardsville resident to pay the fair share.
Correct.
Either it's directly billing or billing the city. We just have to figure that out, but they're not completely barred.
Correct.
Thank
Okay,
you.
that changes it. Okay, are we ready to accept the motion and yeah. What am I
I'd like to
asking?
call the question.
Call the question. I'm
we
asking
have
you
a
to call
second?
the question. Roll call.
I'll second.
I'm sorry, I thought it was already motioned and seconded. It was motion by who? Motion by
Checo.
Pacheco, second by Lopez.
Lopez,
Roll call,
second.
please.
Call.
For scenario C,
Area.
for scenario C.
Roll call. Bynum,
Aye.
Kump,
No.
Burns,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Pacheco,
Aye.
Lopez,
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
The vote is 7-1. The motion carries.
Thank you. Okay.
All right, one out of 3 done, and that was supposed to be the easy one.
Oh
so
my
hold on.
God.
All right.
Can put a maximum on 10 minutes on this next one.
Okay. Up next, we'll talk about stormwater. And just a quick reminder, what we've done this year is break down stormwater into 3 different buckets. We're talking about levels of service. What level of service do you want us to provide the community? And then we'll give a dollar value associated with the increase it would take to provide the level of service that you want. We got a required bucket. Basically, is this regulatory? Are we required by law to do this? That's where that falls in. A responsible utility falls under this category. This is what responsible and resilient utility is. A utility that is looking for future, out planning for the future, is ready to go when an opportunity arises. So those are kind of the 3 different buckets of money, or 3 different ideas we have. I'm not going to go through all these things. We've been through them before. You've had them before. Nothing changed on this from last time. This just tells the different things that fall under the different buckets. Hit on required, we have a few things that are required. Our MS4, that's a requirement by the state. Fixing emergency issues that are hazards, safety issues like that. And then some issues with the flood mitigation and, what's that? Oh, yeah, when we know floods are coming, Jeff's team goes around and cleans inlets out, gets prepared for those floods, those type of operations like that. Those are the ones we put in yes, we're required to do this work. So then you can look at the other things. I've kind of mentioned what it is, but it's just being more proactive. Once you get to the responsible, you're trying to fix problems before they become emergencies. trying to catch up on our backlog of deferred maintenance we've had from a long time. And then resilient, like I said, that's forward thinking, looking at being ready for opportunities to come in the future. That being said, look at the different scenarios. So we're also on this one a little different because we're talking about, we've also got an amended 26 rate in there as well as a 27 rate. So I kind of mentioned before, we're going to try to break these up in the future into 4-year chunks. We're just catching up right now. We're playing catch up. So this is year 1, this is 27 mostly, and then a little bit, an amended 26 to get us some cash going forward so that we can start addressing some issues if that's the route you want us to take. So required, if you just want to stay with what's required, we can do the required work with the funds we have now. That being said, everybody, I think probably everybody on the commission has sent me something not too long ago that is a stormwater related complaint. So us addressing those is not a requirement of the county. It's not a requirement, some of those ones you've sent me. If it's an emergency, if it's a safety thing, should we be addressing it? Yes, a responsible utility addresses those, has the funds to solve those problems. Requirement is strictly, this is required by law. So just to clear that up, so there's not if we don't give them money, you can still do all this. No, we can't. Cost is going up, so our level of service goes down without any additional money. That's just the way the world works. So I just want to make that clear. So here are the fees. Here's what you get with the fees required. The responsible, if we get the increase, we're looking at an extra 20 cents a month this year. So that's additional per month. This year starting, I think we had May 1. I passed that obviously now, so it would be June 1 probably at this point. And then it'd be 96 cents a month increase next year. So a little under $12 for the whole year would be the increase in the storm in the responsible scenario. And then obviously as you go up, when it's resilient, we start planning for the future, start catching up on more of our backlog, trying to get all that caught up. So obviously costs go up if the more work you want to do. That's kind of where I'm at on the stormwater. I'd be glad to answer any questions you have.
Commissioner Bynum.
Thank you. Just a question, average household increase, what's the average based on?
The average is based on the average. So stormwater is kind of tough because it's based on impervious area, right? So it's the average impervious area of the average household in the county.
And I was just curious, like,
so
did you take them all, add them together and divide them by the number to get the average?
It's more the mean, so it takes out the big ones, or the median. I don't know. It's the way if there's some that were really skewing it, like Speedway properties, Walmart, stuff like that.
Those out.
We just focused on the residential.
And this
was
was
the residential number.
Average household, okay.
Correct.
Okay.
So if you have more impervious area than the average,
Right.
it'll be a little more. If you have less, it'll be a little less.
Right, thanks.
Commissioner Pacheco.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner Pacheco,
You're
District
welcome.
5. So Troy, so if we go with the resilient, just as a thought process here, so if we go with the resilient, in some of our discussions earlier, when we had some other meetings about this, it was like, well, it kind of puts us on a path where over time you can actually start seeing then, like, you're getting ahead of the curve, you can actually start saving money over time. The initial investment, just like anything, I mean, you got to put a roof on your house, so you got to do it, but it saves you money because then your living room doesn't get wet when it rains, right? So, it's that sort of concept. But the main thing that I'm trying to figure out is, if we go resilient, do you foresee then, I guess, the average household increase kind of stabilizing over time? So that way, when the next year comes, it's like, hey, we went resilient, but like it's still going up? Or is at minimum just the inflationary cost of things to do your business, this business, is that going to increase it enough to where even if we try to be as resilient and as proactive as possible, it still may not outweigh just the economic pressures of doing these services for people? So I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. In the long run, you're 100% accurate. When we get to a point where you're fully funded, you've got a plan, you're following the plan, your costs will level off, right? It's no different than anything else. You're so far behind, it takes you a lot to get up there. Then once you get up there, then you can level back out, maybe even go down or level out to maintain what you have. So general answer to the question is yes. Will it happen anytime soon? Probably not, just because of the backlog we're at. And I've said this before, and when we started talking about it, many of you weren't here, when we started talking about the stormwater switch to make it the impervious area, to be fair to everybody and make it equitable, we started the conversation with 8 drainage basins of our 50. We have 50 total drainage basins. We looked at 8 of them to start with. From the information we knew, we had $500 million roughly of improvements needed in just those 8 basins. So that's a lot. And now that covers flood mitigation, it covers fixing what we knew of, but that's only what we knew, so there's probably more. So to your point, yes, ultimately it would level off, but we got to get there for that to happen.
And this is a very difficult question, I assume, for you, but any idea what the timeline to get there could be based on just that number that you gave?
And I'll answer that with, I have no idea because we don't know what we don't know.
Okay.
We have not studied, we haven't had the funding to study the basins to even understand all the deficiencies in all the basins at this point. So, and I will note, I thought it was removed for this, but apparently when we changed the slide, that says for the Starbond watershed, that does not mean the Western Wyandotte County. The Starbond means anything within our county that could be a Starbond district, which is basically our whole county. So that was put in there. I know it causes confusion. It does not mean Western Wyandotte County. It means
All of it.
and we revised that, but I think when we updated the slides, it did not get updated as well. So I just want to clarify that for the public or anybody watching, that does not mean only studying Western Wyandotte County. That means ultimately the goal of that is we do a study, we know what the needs are, which means if a development comes in, whether it's in the west, whether it's in the northeast, whether it's Rock Island Bridge, something like that, whatever, if a development comes in, we can say, oh, we've already looked at this. We know these are needs right here. We can put that on the developer to pay for those needs, as opposed to us finding out after the development that we need it, and then it's on our ratepayers to go back and have to pay for that. So that's the intent of that. Don't take that as Western Wyandotte County or anything related to, what's going out there. That was not the intent. So.
Very good. Yeah, I think those are all points very well taken. And I think it's just one of those, this is again, one of those kind of like pocketbook, sitting around the table sort of things. It's like, I don't know that we can pay for this right now, honey. Like, we just got to be able to make it and do what we got to do. I don't know that only doing this scenario A puts us in a responsible position. It's actually scenario B is called responsible. So I think scenario A kind of puts us even maybe a little bit further behind potentially if we're only doing that. And I think scenario C is kind of we just talked about other budgetary issues and things like that. It's kind of one of those things where it's like you want to be able to do it, but you're just not quite in the financial space for us to do it, in my opinion. I'm also a very new commissioner, but just based off of what I know so far, I think I won't make a motion yet. There's plenty of discussion, but I think scenario B is the responsible choice at this time, both financially, something that we can actually stomach, something that we can do, that doesn't let us get too far behind either.
Why not just round it out to $1 instead of 96 cents?
Because that's what, that was
That's
what
the
the average ended
average?
up being.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah.
But you could set it to whatever you want, though.
Well, yeah, so that's the average. So don't see that number and think that everybody's going to be 96 cents increase per month.
Oh, gotcha.
Because that's just the average, since it's based off impervious area. So if you've got one more
Some to be
square foot of
more.
impervious area, it's going to cost you a fraction of a penny more. So
Gotcha.
it's just that one's a hard number to say because you'll probably have 1 or 2 houses that is exactly 96 cents. It just happens to be the average.
Gotcha. Thank you for clarifying that. Commissioner Ramirez, we'll keep keeping this to 10 minutes, y'all.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with Commissioner Pacheco. C is like our wish list. We want to be there, but we're just not in the position to get there. So between A and B, which one keeps us in compliance with the consent decree?
So this I don't say it doesn't have anything to do with the consent decree. That's more the sanitary rates than the stormwater rates. There is some overlap there. So some of the storm rates do help supplement sanitary when we have certain projects. But in general, the sanitary rates, which we'll talk about next, is the one that mainly focuses on the consent decree.
I will hold back that question for that. for that rate. But I'm in complete agreement with Commissioner Pacheco. Like I said, scenario C is a wish list where we would like to be, but we're just not in the position. So, but I think scenario B is the best option. A seems like we're just doing just a little, just to get by. I think our infrastructure we've been getting by with our infrastructure for too long. I think we need to be a little bold and let's take it a little step further. And I think scenario B gets us there. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Davis.
I'm gonna try to make this fast, Mayor.
Okay.
The last time we had this conversation, there was a few points that I brought up, and some of it applies to stormwater, some of it is wastewater. So, yeah, I'm slightly being redundant. I just want to ask you that question, Jeff. One of the things you all have been able to do is merge some of your work with parks and other green spaces where, particularly if the work is happening below ground, we're able to think thoughtfully of what happens above ground. Within kind of that line of thinking, which scenario best fits for us to kind of reproduce or keep doing some of the amazing things you all have done, for example, at like Spitlog Park?
Yeah. So ultimately C is the one that lets us really plan that out and do that. B will help us maintain what we've done, and if there are opportunities on other consent decree projects, especially where we are separating a storm and a sanitary sewer, a lot of that funding is done just because it's a sanitary issue until it's separated. It's
Sure.
done with sanitary funds. So what B does, helps us maintain after that's done. So it allows us to maintain 8th Street Park after it's done, because that pond will be maintained with stormwater funds, not parks funds, not general fund. It'll be maintained with stormwater funds. So ultimately, scenario C gets you to that point and long ways down the future. And Christina can probably tell you more about that. Actually.
Please, yeah.
On 8th Street Park, as an example, the parks part of that was paid for with a grant with the ARPA funds. So the stormwater rates and the sanitary rates paid for the sewer separation and the underground storage, stormwater and the pond, but all of the amenities for the park were paid for out of a grant. So if you went with scenario C, we would be able to do more of that, because scenario B would just be the sewer separation and the stormwater part.
Yeah, and that's a good point. So I wasn't even thinking about the park amenities. So the park amenities couldn't be funded out of sanitary or stormwater rates, just the stormwater portion of that.
Yeah.
So the park amenities are, to Christina's point, grant, other things. But if you had C, that opens you to the opportunity of, hey, we've got funds that are planned to offset or to help go after other funds, right? And I think we've talked about that in other areas too, is, yeah, any grants you're looking for.
It would help us to have match money for other grants and stuff.
So if we were to just line out this scenario, let's say parks, either it's parks for you all, or maybe it's just kind of the same area where it would be beneficial for there to be some sort of a partnership. We could leverage your enterprise fund as a grant match for parks and kind of kill two birds, one stone, get the separation of sewer wastewater and get some of the park amenities. Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct. That's 100% exactly right. And we've actually been doing that. And Commissioner Burns is seeing some of that right now. And he's asking me when it's going to get done, which I'm working on it. But the 10th and Grandview, we're rebuilding an intersection there that had some safety issues, had a lot of other concerns with it. But we're doing that because a sewer project was going under there and we were going to rip up the road and have to rebuild it anyway. So we had some intersection funds that the commission, you guys allocated for intersection improvement or traffic signal improvements. Well, there was a signal there. So us being able to leverage those funds to remove that signal and build a safer intersection while we were already tearing it up allowed us to combine those together. And from a transportation side, get a transportation project done at a fraction of the cost that it would have cost just to do that transportation. So
yeah,
spot on with that.
That is interesting and attractive to me. I know other cities, and we've kind of talked about this, have used kind of that top layer for art or for sculptures or for trails, or now we're talking, right, traffic calming and things of that nature. Just again, a committee, dear God, just again, commission, something for us to think about. My last question, in our previous conversation, we talked about a ditch pilot that you all have talked about. We are inundated with emails about people's homes flooding. And I just wonder, what could this do to help solve that problem?
So, I'm not gonna have the exact numbers for you, but when we started the stormwater rate and everything got, we would get the impervious area approved, we came up with a, ditching program. It has a policy, how we operate it. We have a lot of work done throughout the community as where it's needed. We've done a couple different pilot projects, I believe, already that we could show, and I'd be glad to meet with you and talk to you about that. So right this year, we're doing very little in that. Just the funding's not available. Scenario A, it would not be available. Scenario B, it would add more for that program. And I think you would see it. I can't remember if it's broken out in the budget or not, but what we would do once we get it, and we'll do this with all our rates, we'll break them up, and so we can tell you, even if it's in a lump sum in the budget, we'll break that up and tell you how our intent is to spend it. And you can see it, and then I'd be glad to sit down with you and you go over the whole program with you. It'd be great. It's an interesting, Jonathan Wiles on our team helped develop it, and his team. So it's a great program.
I just, again, and thank you for sharing that information. I think whatever decision we make, our community needs to physically see the impact. And what y'all are doing at, it was at Split Log and at 8th Street and like these other like investments that are on top of the ground, right? That people can see and drive around and be like, oh, wow, what's that? It makes it so much easier to justify what that monthly bill is, as opposed to saying it increased, but everything's happening under the ground. Very important. It's just hard for residents to really wrap their mind around that. And so, again, I can go with B or go with C. If we do go with C, I would want there to be an emphasis on the the ditch program, as well as how we can leverage these dollars for other on top of the ground projects that you all are working on. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Hill.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Troy, we have riddled you with a bunch of questions, and I promise I just have one, for real, one question. And that is this: at the beginning of your presentation, you mentioned that most of the calls that you thought most of the commissioners were getting was in regards to stormwater. In the scenario B, would that take care of what the need is immediately for those residents here that maybe you've heard from us about? Would be enough to take care of what's going on now?
Instantly, probably not, just because we have such a backlog we have a whole list of them, and we'd be glad to share that with you. So basically, the way, when we get calls come in, some of them are private. We can't address them. Even if we wanted to, we can't get on someone's property to do the work. It's a private issue. Some of them are, my neighbor's yard is draining to my yard. That's not a city problem. So all those, no. Then there's a list of city problems. We go out and look at it, we'll evaluate it, we'll call the homeowner, we'll talk to them. Then we put them in our system. Lucity is our system that we track it in, and we give it a ranking, whether it's hey, this is an immediate emergency, and maybe a solution to immediate emergency is a safety issue, go stick some fence around it and make sure that no one can fall in a hole. That is something we can do, and that's basically your scenario A. If we get no money and we have no money to fix it, we're gonna keep it safe for the public, but we can't. So to your point, scenario B would definitely start us down the path of addressing those issues. Can we get them all? Probably not. I don't know off the top of my head, but we would be able to come back to you once we get it figured out and we get the money. Then we'll go back and look at our system, and new ones come in every day. And kind of like Jeff dealt with you saw Ian Hayes up here. a month ago or so, presenting about the work he did under I-70 to save the city, what, $500,000 or something like that, on the work for that. So sometimes those pop up, and when those pop up, those are big problems. So those take a lot of the money that we plan on using on other things. But to your point, yes, it would definitely help down that path, and we could report back. So like I said earlier, we'll be back, since this is a 1 year right now, we'll be back probably beginning of next year before budget season to talk about the rates from 28 through 30. And we'd be happy to come back with, hey, you approved this, here's the work that was done out of it, especially to address the individual concerns that truly help. Obviously, we do work that costs millions of dollars for the whole community, but it's a lot of times, to your point, it's the individual ones that people see that make an impact the most in people's minds. So.
You good? It's good. Okay, Commissioner Lopez.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify too, per our residents' perspectives, because I've heard, hey, why am I paying for God's rain? Well, what we need to understand, I believe, is residents been paying this. It's been under a mill levy forever. And then it was separated at some time. Am I correct?
So prior to a few years ago when we went to the impervious area calculation, it was basically each resident, and I think that was early 2000s, it was approved that every parcel would pay the same fee. So that went up. It started at $4, and I think it went up to $6 or something by the time it was done. But that was, so basically, you were paying, I was paying, every resident was paying $5, whatever it was a month at the time, and Walmart was paying $5 a month. Well, if you look at Walmart's site, they put a lot more stormwater in our system than you and me do with grass front yards. They've got a big parking lots, big roof. So which industry-wide, the standard is impervious area. So impervious area is basically hard surfaces that water can't soak into. So then that's what we went to. So everybody is charged individually based off of that for their own parcel, which is why, to the point of 96 cents is really just an average. Everybody's going to be different depending on the number.
Right. Well, I was just trying to let our residents understand that you guys have been paying this whole time. It's just now it's kind of separated from a mill levy into a bill.
Yes.
And now it's like strategically they can see exactly. And now, so that I understand that.
Yeah, and I'll say, to your point, you're right. Even before it was put on there partially, we still had stormwater pipes under roads. People still used roads to drive where, so we still had to get the stormwater from someone's property to the river. It was just being funded somewhere else besides this fee. So you're correct. You're 100% correct.
Now, last year, we pulled infrastructure as a commission approved, pulled infrastructure money and put towards HUD. Did that cut your legs out from underneath you a little bit?
I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head. I don't know what
Anyway,
that would be.
so I just wanted to make sure that, I mean, it basically, this could be like, what my question was like, how do we get this far where we have a consent decree and we've been putting it on the back burner, and obviously it's funds and you have infrastructure to do that, and then it's pulled, and then now we're here, and now it's just, we're at a point where, I mean, I made an oath to myself that, I wasn't never going to be for raising tax money, but now we're at a rock and a hard place. We don't have a choice because of decisions that were made in the past, like pulling infrastructure money, putting towards HUD. But anyway, so what I'm saying is, and then, we have, yeah, I was getting that too. I'm liking scenario B. I'd like to look at C just so we can get ahead of the game, but we're already getting, and people have to understand too. I had to explain to a lady the other day, and I actually told her to write it down and repeat it back to me, because she's like, our property tax is so high, property tax is so high. And I said, well, what's your property tax right now? And she said 5,000. So I did the math right in front of her. I said, okay, 2,200 of that is going to the UG. The rest of it is going to the college, the library board, the pet district, and the school. So, and I was like, now repeat that back to me. So I said, go to the college board meetings, go to the school and the library board and bark up their trees, because they're the ones that are raising the mill levy so freaking high. So, that's why I was just wanting our residents to understand that we're at a rock and a hard place and we don't have a choice. And that's that's where I was at. So thank you.
Commissioner Bynum?
Thank you. Okay, so if we look at scenario B, under the rate, 2026, the base is 541. The proposed 27 is 546, so that's a nickel, right? And then the impervious area per 500 square feet would go from 88 to $1.04, and that's 16 cents. So the rate increase would be about 21 cents.
So that,
Hang on, I'm getting there.
sorry, okay, sorry.
So is that amount that you've got listed in the rate column, how you got to the 96 cents average household increase? Because those are the two amounts, right? You have
So-
a base rate and then a per 500 square foot impervious area.
Yeah, so that's, yes, that is what was used. That increase was used to get to that 98 cents on
Okay.
average. Just want to
Because-
make it clear that when you try to do the math, it doesn't work out. You can't just add numbers up because it's based on the impervious area. So you have to take
Right.
that 104 times whatever it is. So, but yes, that was used.
I just wanted clarity that it's not that plus that. It's,
Correct.
that is how you obtained the average household increase
Correct.
of 96
Yes.
cents. Okay. So Christina, do you remember when we went and met the neighbors in West Height
Yes.
and walked, I think that was 22nd Street, to look at
The
that
drainage issue.
issue? This is probably impossible to answer. Scenario B says supports long-term capital improvement as part of its what we could possibly do. Would that be an example of something that we could possibly fix if we chose scenario B? Because I see that problem that we saw in that neighborhood as just recurring over and over and over and over again.
That started out as a complaint about the street,
Yeah,
and it turns out that the street is damaged by the drainage that's there. So it's mostly a street reconstruction, but putting under drains in it, I believe would be
good.
a good fix for it. So I'm not sure what budget that would come out of.
Oh, okay.
If that would be, because Brandon was in, that was one of his
Yeah,
problems.
I mean, I think that's a good point. To Commissioner Davis's previous point, that's an opportunity that we could use to leverage multiple pots of money to maybe solve two problems at once. But yes, so you see in there, it supports $1 million worth of emergency and high priority. That gets to,
Mhm.
hey, something comes up, Commissioner Hills, something comes up. What are we going to fix with that? Whether it's an emergency, whether it's starting to knock down that backlog of stuff we have as higher priorities. That's what that million's for. So it may be possibly there depending on where it falls, but also the chunk that says supports long-term capital investment.
Right.
So those are the larger capital projects that we would usually take out debt for, which is fine. It's good to have, but we don't have, currently the stormwater fund is not at a place like the sanitary one where it's, you're taking this much out every year because you know what you're doing. So we're not just, hey, we're gonna do this much debt, this much debt. No, we're based it around the projects that we actually determine needed based on the budget that's approved.
But I'm not asking for any commitments on that specific place, but it's a really good example, obviously, of something that we've patched over and over and over, and it does not solve the problem. And I'm just wondering, do you know offhand if that project is like sitting on one of your lists?
It was in Brandon's
Okay.
list. but
It's probably,
It's in the mix now.
yeah, it's probably one of those, it might actually be on two lists. It's
Okay.
probably in Lucity, which is in the stormwater side, and it's probably also in Brandon's list of his pavement preservation. Basically, Brandon, for the pavement side, Brandon keeps a list of where issues are, and then following his pavement preservation schedule, So he knows that when he gets to this one, he knows that he's got this other issue that he needs to address before he paves the road.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Troy, how much of this is in the consent decree?
The stormwater side, very little directly. The stormwater side helps supplement the separation of the sewer and other projects related to that. Or for example, the 8th Street Park's a good one. Sanitary funds, because we separated sewer, were used to do a lot of the work that created the pond and a lot of that work. But these stormwater funds are gonna be used to maintain it after that separation.
Okay.
So it's been separated. Now, we're not gonna use sanitary funds to maintain that work going forward. It'll be the stormwater funds used to maintain that.
Okay. Commissioner Davis.
I'm curious, we don't have kind of like total budget, right, in each scenario. I'm looking at the budget that we passed, and correct me if I'm wrong, the budget for stormwater is about 11.7 million.
That would probably be very close. However, I'll say this just because Sarah would kill me if I didn't. We're working with BPU to try to improve some of our collections. As we're going through this process, obviously their system is not set up to be billed per parcel. It's per electric account is how they're set up. So they've had to do some creative things to bill parcels out as well. So we didn't collect as much money as we thought initially, but we're working to rectify that when we find issues going forward. So yes, you're right. I think it was 11 point something million. I think we ended up with 9.6 or something like that the first year we started doing this. So it's getting better though, because BPU's working well with us to try to solve that. So you're accurate.
Okay, so in that scenario, let's say we're starting at the 11.7 million, is it right to assume for scenario A that the budget would just remain at 11.7 million?
Roughly, yes. We would probably update it based on what we've received, just update it a little bit. But yes, you're correct.
Okay, and then any idea for scenario B, scenario C, what the total budget would be for stormwater?
I was afraid that's where you're going. Christina, do you have? Okay. No, I'm sure we have it. Sarah's not here because she's at a conference speaking somewhere.
Gotcha.
I know we have that number. I know she has it because it's obviously calculated off something. So we have the number. I just don't know off the top of my head. Sorry about that.
And we could probably look at we could compare kind of the percentages or the increase in the amounts. Okay. My last question, I think, is I'm very interested in emergency high priority repairs, right? We have a lot of elderly kind of senior folks that are having their homes flooded. This is particularly most evident on the eastern part of town, old infrastructure. Like, I'm very interested in the physical impact of what this decision is. It's $1 million for emergency high priorities under scenario B. For scenario C, I don't see anything listed regarding the emergency and high priority repairs beyond that's just included. So in scenario C is what you're presenting, saying there wouldn't be any additional amount of money dedicated to emergency repairs.
In general, yes. And the rationale behind that is because basically the difference is $2 million between those scenarios. And you see that number right there. That is because we don't know what we don't know. And we're going to use that money to learn what we don't know so that we could hopefully in the future get any development that comes in to pay for these issues that we don't know about right now instead of our ratepayers doing that. So just for an example, the 1 million we say for repairs or emergency repairs, in the scenario, I think this year we have about 300,000 is what they're ended up with, something like that. So it's a drastic increase over the work we're able to do this year on that pot of money. So, and then like I said, we would come back next year if you decide to go with B or C, either way, and you'll have a list of what we did and with that money, and then we'll have rates for 28 through 30 as well. And then I think at that point, we'll probably have a better idea of what we'll actually be able to do with that, given we had enough to do what we did this year and 27.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm leaning towards scenario B then. Just given kind of the bang for the buck. Nothing against studies. I understand the need for studies. I just think at this point in time, our residents need to see physical results. I perhaps with a grant, I know Mark currently has their Sustainable Places grant. I know we have one. Maybe we can get another one. But I would like to find other ways for us to pay for the study. 2 million is a little steep for us to raise rates, but scenario B would be my preference.
Commissioner Burns.
Thank you, Mayor. Are you ready for a motion?
I sure am, but I don't know if anybody else is.
Mayor,
With that,
Commissioner Pacheco has a comment, and so does Lopez.
Mayor, we have a motion on the floor. We just need a second.
We
Commissioner
do?
Pacheco.
He made a motion? He wasn't ready.
Okay.
Are you, Commissioner Burns, are you making a motion?
yes, I did.
Okay, he made a motion for what?
Scenario B.
Okay, Commissioner Burns. Who's the second? Pacheco, Davis? Okay. Okay, I got a motion and a second. Mr. Pacheco, do you want a question?
It won't be very
Comment?
long at all.
Can it be
just
30
listen.
seconds? No, I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
yeah, just so,
Commissioner
here, 10
Pacheco.
seconds. Get me on the clock. So, to Commissioner Davis's
Pick-
point, just very simply, I went from our 500, our area by a 500 square foot, 0.85 to 1.04. That's about a 23% increase. The other one's about a 44% increase. The numbers from 11.7 million at scenario A, you get to about 14 and a half at B and about 17 and change at C. So just to put some very rudimentary, do not quote me on those numbers, but just to kind of give ourselves an idea of what we're doing with the money.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Lopez, 30 seconds.
Hey,
I'm just kidding.
so what, just a quick question. With whatever scenario we go with and the ratepayers have to pay, obviously, but what if, the time being from now to, I don't know, next month, 2 months into the year, we was able to pull a rabbit out of a hat and get a bunch of money where we could, drop, we still have we still get what you need, but we won't have to charge the ratepayer so much.
So I think that in general, if I think of grants as opportunities to either not increase rates as much in the future or do more work. And that's kind of your choice at that point, right? If we get a grant, it won't impact the rates this year because we still have everything we need to do. We're not a fully funded utility. We don't have everything solved. If we did, hey, we get it solved and we get a bunch of money, that would drastically impact. But if we have this rate, we get a big pot of money. That means next year when we come back, we can say, okay, well, we got this, because we got this money, we don't need to increase rates as much this year. Or if you increase rates by another 5%, whatever, I'm making up numbers, then we can do all this extra amount of work because we got this, right? So it's kind of, at that point, it's up to you as do you want us to, how you want us to handle it.
Well, what I'm saying is, whatever we decide tonight, when will this implement, on their bills?
So if you look at that, if you scenario B, I'll just say for example, if you take scenario B, it says May 1st, it'll start with the extra 20 cents
I
per,
got you.
per
There
month
we go.
on average.
Mhm.
It would probably be June 1st at this point because we came last month, so we were just moving a month. So then the extra 96 cents on average, which obviously is different for everybody, would be January of next year.
Okay, so we get moving on this, and what I'm saying is like all of a sudden, oh, there's a bunch of money sitting here that just appeared out of nowhere. I'm just hypothetical. Then there, and we could keep the rates down, and even the rest of this year and next year as well. But you still have the money to keep going what you're doing. With what I'm saying.
You're asking something outside of an engineer's knowledge base. I've always operated, you approve rates for the year, and those are the rates as they're approved unless they're changed by commission somewhere else.
Right. What I'm saying is you have the money, you're moving. You can get stuff done. You have the money. But then we was able to find money to actually help the ratepayers so they don't have to pay so much. But it still equals the same. I mean, like you still have your money to get going to what needs to be done.
I mean, from my perspective, I'm gonna operate on whatever rates the commission approves. So if commission wants to go back and change the rates, then I will operate on whatever they go back and change the rates to.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying is if we were able to change the rates, but you still have what you need to get things done.
And my recommendation, if that happened, would be we keep the rates the same and we do more work so we can provide more of a benefit to the community from a stormwater standpoint. But that's your decision to make if that opportunity ever presents itself.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Burns for stormwater rate scenario B and a second by Commissioner Davis. Roll call, please.
Roll call Bynum,
Aye.
Tump,
Aye.
Burns,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Pacheco,
Aye.
Lopez,
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
The vote is 8-0. The motion carries.
Woo-hoo, sanitary, let's get it on.
All right, 2 out of 3. We're almost there. Okay, I'm not gonna go over this. Same thing on this one. We have 3 pots and 3 buckets. However, the only difference on sanitary, what I mentioned, is we didn't even include the resilient on this slide. We know where we're at.
Why?
The reason we didn't do that is because scenario A in this one is the graph you've seen for the past 10, 12 years, whatever that is, with that shows the rates, the one clip from our consent decree that is targeted rate increases that were created 2017-18 time period. Obviously, since then, everybody has seen construction's costs skyrocket. 3.5%, 4% is not even going to keep up with the cost of construction at this point, let alone add new stuff to it. So that's why we have that scenario, because I want to show you what that is. And if we stick with that, we are not going to be compliant with our consent decree moving forward. What that means is there are projects that are in consent decree we're not going to hit timelines on. We'll do as much as we can with it. We'll move forward. We'll keep chipping away at it. But just like the stormwater side, we will have backlogs and deferred maintenance issues that pop up that we'll keep track of and solve the immediate emergencies. When sewage hits the ground, we have no option. We have to go remediate that. That's illegal for us not to do it. So we'll address those things, but eventually we'll start not being able to address a lot of it. Our backlog will get bigger. So that's why that's on there that way, just to show. I know you've seen the other graph over 10 years, it's been there, and we would love to stay there. We can't continue to meet the consent decree with that rate increase. So that's why it's there. So scenario B on this one, very similar to stormwater. We've set it up. However, the B on this one is the required bucket, not the responsible. So B is what is required by the consent decree, and consent decree includes all the Clean Water Acts, everything else, that's all rolled in the consent decree, those federal requirements we have. We have an increased cash to meet our emergency repairs. We consider that required. They're emergencies, they break down. Part of our consent decree is not just meeting the projects listed out as there, it is performing our daily operations and maintenance of our facilities, of our treatment plants, of our force mains, pump stations, sewers that are out there. That is part of the consent decree, is maintaining that moving forward. So I know the consent decree lists out certain projects, and those are easy to see and point out, but also remember, we have a lot of other work that needs to be done. If we don't maintain our treatment plants, we're not doing anything. It's not going to make a difference what we do. So that's all in that required bucket on that point. And then the responsible is ultimately at this point, this says star bonds too. It should have been changed. I apologize. Same caveat that we did the last one. That is everything just ready for future development. Even the responsible gets us in that part a little bit on this one. So if we start moving on that one, it lets us start to chip away at that and be prepared for development that comes in a little bit. From a sanitary side, that's a different animal than it is from a stormwater side. So from a sanitary, I know on stormwater, that was in the resilient side, but on a sanitary, responsible utilities know what the needs for future growth, because you can't have someone come in that overcapacitates your sanitary system, and then you got sanitary sewage running out on the ground if that happens. So we can't, responsible utility doesn't let that happen. So I know there's a little bit of difference between storm and sanitary because they are a different animal when it comes to the regulatory requirements to start with. So those are the 3 scenarios we proposed. Scenario B, for example, a 1% increase starting, it would be June 1 now at this point, and then 7% in 27. And we would be back in 28 to talk about, or 27 to talk about 28 through 30 rates to get back on that same 4-year cycle with sanitary as well. So.
Okay, Commissioner Bynum.
Thank you, buying them at large one. Okay, Jeff. When you see this on your BPU bill,
Mhm.
it says wastewater. Is that true?
Correct.
Okay, I'm just making sure we're talking about the same thing. So how's that calculated? How's my monthly wastewater calculated?
There's a fixed charge. That's just the connection to the system, and that cost of that goes into infrastructure repair, upgrades, things like that, maintenance. And then there's a per gallon, it says CCF, but it's actually per gallon. And there's a charge per gallon of water treated, and that is, we have a 4-month average. It starts in December, January, February, March. That average figures out your average for the rest of the year.
Okay, so when we look at these proposed rates, we're basing that on whatever the fixed charge and whatever the 4-month average
Yes, ma'am.
ends up being on your wastewater bill.
That's correct.
Right? And so, again, looking at if we chose B, average monthly, starting June 1, would go up 56 cents. And then on top of that, average monthly would be roughly $3.97 come January 1 of next year. Am I tracking?
That is correct, and that's
Okay.
average as well.
Right, okay. I just want to be clear about what bill we're talking about when we talk about sanitary sewer rates, because we call it something else when we bill it.
Yes.
Yes, and you remember you said that last time. We owe a check through the ordinance to make sure however we're talking about it equals
Right.
that. We haven't done that yet, but yes, you are
That's
correct.
okay. I just
That's our
wanted,
goal, is to check that to make sure we're referring it the same way our ordinance is.
okay, just wanted to make sure we're clear about where this charge appears. Thank you.
Commissioner Pacheco.
Thank you, Mayor Pacheco, District 5. So a couple quick questions, primarily for the public. Number one, in a couple sentences, could you quickly explain what is the consent decree and why is it important that we are in compliance with it?
I'll take that one. So this is, 80 plus years in the making, and that's what we're really dealing with today. And that's for years and years and years of not enough investment, keeping ahead of the maintenance curve that brought the EPA in to do an audit, to do a full inspection of our entire system from top to bottom. We reached a partial consent decree in 2013, and we finalized it in 2020. If we do not meet, it's basically a playbook that says every level of a utility, you got to step it up from asset management to staffing to training to projects, you name it, cleaning, how many lines, everything. And if you do not meet that, the Department of Justice holds us accountable with fines.
Very good. And then a second follow-up would be, what do you assume is the primary driver for an increase of 7%? Is part of that, perhaps a significant part of it, just an increased cost of doing business, of doing this type of work?
I would answer that, yeah. The vast majority of that is the just general cost. I mean, even quotes that we're getting on, obviously, everybody knows fuel. But when we get contracts to come in and do repairs, emergency repairs, we're seeing well higher than 7%. And in fact, just for the commission and the public, if you just look nationwide, I mean, I just looked at, say, City San Francisco that's under a consent decree, and they're going forward with 17% increases,
Okay.
is what they're recommending.
Okay, very good. So I'll try to rein us in a little bit and people will still do whatever they want to do. I mean, we kind of made an argument on the last round of, you know, even though the scenarios are called a little bit differently and I understand why they are so, I think B puts us in that manageable position of that 7%, as we've learned, is probably most likely due a lot to just the increased cost of doing this type of work for a community, especially ours, that has some older infrastructure. It seems like we're maybe coming in at a better number than even other communities at doing it. And this still supports some future looking things as well, besides, just doing only the basics. which wouldn't even put us in compliance with the consent decree, which now we've learned, hopefully the public has learned why it's so important for us to be in compliance with. So we can deliberate, but I will go ahead and put a motion out on the floor to pass scenario B.
For scenario which?
B.
B. Is there a second?
Second.
Are we ready to vote? Or do we want comments? I will go Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just have one question, and I apologize. Dr. Knieven, you can give a yes or no. At the bottom, it says total debt authority increases to 140 million. Does that affect the debt strategy, the new debt strategy you're trying to bring us to? Nope. All right. That was my only question. Thank you.
Commissioner Davis.
Thank you. Commissioner Ramirez is kind of getting where I was going. This is where WIFIA would come into play.
Maybe. So part of that is, so basically we kind of showed you the shot at the beginning that was the orange box or yellow box, whatever color it was. So that's where we're at, determine the rates. Once we get the rates determined, then we'll look at, like we do all the time, we'll work with finance and the administrator's office to say, what is the best funding source for the projects we need to do? So if we have, I don't know, $50 million worth of projects, whatever it is, then how is it best to fund it? There's many funding. WIFIA is one of them, SRF, GEO bonds. They're all different funding sources to do that work. So to fund those large capital projects, yes, that's where a program like WIFIA or SRF or even GEO bonds, whatever makes the most sense financially that gets us the biggest bang for our buck is what we would look at. So yeah.
Gotcha. I'm for scenario B. My recommendation for staff just going forward for these presentations is if y'all are going to ask like for what the most money is, I would really work on making that the most attractive. Because at this point, it becomes a like, we're really looking at two scenarios. And so I think just in the future, really thinking through for these scenario C's for like what is responsible, thinking very deeply in making that case would be helpful, just because those are quite substantial increases. You're almost looking at a double from May 1st for scenario B to May 1st for scenario C. I would have liked to have just seen a little bit more of what we get for the bang for the buck on that, but I'm good with scenario B.
Commissioner Comp.
Thank you, Mayor. I think it sounds like most of the commission's in agreement. I mean, scenario A, in my mind, would be just negligent. We cannot remain non-compliant with the DOJ. I mean, that can cause us a litany of issues down the road if they want to take enforcement action. So I'm happy to hear that my fellow commissioners seem to share that sentiment. And I feel like, kind of like Goldilocks, one's too hot, one's too cold. I think scenario C is, in my mind, that's too much. That's too much of a burden on the taxpayers and the ratepayers to ask for that kind of jump, not only this year, but then next year. Now, does anybody from Public Works or staff know the average kind of inflation rate in the Public Works realm?
So I've actually looked that up, and it changes by wherever you're at in the country, obviously, whatever it is. But what I was looking at was since COVID, basically, since COVID ended, we've seen an average of 5 to 6% on average. So some years it's more, some years a little less, but on average it's 5 or 6% increase. And obviously with the sanitary rate, we were getting 4% per year. So as you can see, even just with construction costs going up, and also understand that when we look at raises, for example, every year, we want talented employees, but those employees are funded out of the sewer rates or the stormwater rates as well. So when the general fund talks about, well, we need a 3% raise or 2%, whatever it is, well, we're doing similar things with the other rate too. So that raise for the employees is coming out of those chunks as well. So it's not just, well, how much are you spending on construction? It's a lot of other things, to your point, that are factored in. And so far, at least since COVID, we have not been keeping up with the cost of construction.
Sure. So
I'm going to add to that. In my world, in the city management world, our literature is saying that what we used to see in about 10 or 15 years ago, that the public works inflation rate was between 8 to 10%, well above what CPI is. Since COVID and with the issues on trade, many of the supplies in public works world comes from offshore. And so you have to deal with delays, and that adds costs to our projects. It's now between 10 to 15% a year. And that's to provide a basic public service. And a lot of people don't know that. And we have this assumption that we can keep things really low and provide the same level of service. But if we don't have the revenue, we cannot meet the expectations. So it's, 10 to 15% annually is surprising to many, but those of us in the game, it's standard.
Thank you, County Administrator. So as much as I'd love to say, yes, scenario C, let's capture all that revenue. We need it to comply with the consent decree, and we have a backlog of systems that need immediate attention. That's, in my mind, too big of an ask for the ratepayers. And again, I think scenario A is reckless. So I think scenario B is kind of that just right temperature, and that's my opinion. So I appreciate the presentation and the information.
Thank you so much. Appreciate everyone's feedback. We have a motion for sanitary rate scenario B from Pacheco and a second from Burns. Roll call, please.
Roll call Bynum.
Aye.
Kump,
Aye.
Burns,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Pacheco,
Aye.
Lopez, Davis.
Aye.
The vote is 7-0. The motion carries.
Thank you. At this time, the commission will go into executive session regarding personal matters of non-elected personnel. Do we have a motion for an executive session?
Mayor, Bynum at large 1, I move that the commission go into executive session until 9:05 PM in the 5th floor conference room to consult with attorneys and discuss confidential matters related to pending litigation and claims as permitted under Kansas Open Meeting Act, and that Angela Lawson, Casey Meyer, and the following staff, David Wimberly, Daniel Soptic, participate in the discussion as needed, and that we reconvene in open session at 9:05 PM in the 5th floor conference room.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Roll call, sorry. Bynum,
Aye.
Kump,
Aye.
Burns,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Pacheco,
Aye.
Lopez. He's not here. Davis.
Aye.
The vote is 7-0. The motion carries.
Thank you.
We lost Commissioner Lopez.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we'll reconvene in open session on the